First day of July 2021, the last day of the month of July 2021, the 7th month of the year. And today also happens to be my last day hosting this show. And indeed, it has been an honor coming your way every weekend in, weekend out, with comprehensive wraps of weekly stories that make it to the headlines. And we are truly grateful for your custom this far. But back to business. Today, as usual, we're coming to you live from the studios of TV3 here in Accra. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. And there is a whole lot on the show this morning, as usual. We'll start off with a look at the mid-year review of the 2021 budget statement, asking the question whether that is a big push for economic recovery. Now, this week saw the much-expected presentation to Parliament of the mid-year fiscal policy review of the 2021 budget statement and economic policy of the government. Various policies were outlined towards the recovery of the economy from the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, with an ambitious 1 million jobs initiative. Now, in that proposal is also the establishment of what has been called a youth bank, bank with a C. Now, this 1 million jobs initiative, among others, is targeted at the youth, who make up about 71% of Ghana's population. Now, with the current youth bulge, youth unemployment is seen by many economic analysts as the biggest public policy problem, especially over the past decade. Now, then there was also the issue about gender mainstreaming of the budget, with a proposal to allocate 20% of procurements to women. Question is, how is this going to be implemented? Then there was also an update on the progress of the construction of the National Cathedral, which we are told is expected to be officially commissioned on the 6th of March 2024. This morning, we put these government policies under the economic microscope and ask pertinent questions about how realistic these policies that have been proposed for the remainder of the year are. And then we turn our attention to matters coming from the quarters of the judiciary. And the outcome of the Asin North parliamentary election petition is up for conversation, when we'll be exploring the legal and political ramifications of that judgment. So this week, a Cape Coast High Court cancelled the 2020 parliamentary results of the Asin North constituency. A cost of 10,000 Ghana cedis was awarded against the Electoral Commission and 30,000 Ghana cedis against James Jeche Kwesen, who, until the cancellation of the results, was the Asin North MP. Now, while the governing NPP welcomed the judgment, calling it a victory for the rule of law, the opposition NDC described it as a travesty of justice. Generally, there are mixed reactions over the judgment. Now, we will bring you an interrogation of that judgment as delivered today on the show, and will shed some legal light on the relevant issues, particularly those pertaining to the question of allegiance versus nationality. We will as well look at the political ramifications of this judgment. As usual, the show runs from now till 9:50, where conversations will be brought to a close. We encourage you to stay with us and send through your comments to our WhatsApp line 055-369-8789, and we will share your comments, reactions, remarks and contributions with the rest of the world as we go along with the program. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we start off with a look at the mid-year review of the 2021 budget statement. Stay with us. This is the Key Points. We'll be right back.
Ever thought of how persons with mental health conditions fare with sexual and reproductive health rights issues? Amidst all that we are going through, there is the ever-hovering matter of sexual and reproductive health concerns, especially of adolescent girls and women, to be mindful of. We all have a role to play in addressing the sexual and reproductive health concerns of persons affected by mental health in Ghana. As Christians, we have an obligation. It is not a choice for us to support the mental health disabled in our midst in gaining access to sexual reproductive health rights and issues. The Lord be with all of us.
This message is brought to you by Basic Needs Ghana and funded by Amplify Chain.
Bonsoir, monsieur. Madame. Et voilà.
Ah, babe, what is this?
This is the escargot. The foie gras. Oui.
Where did she go?
You pa one kasa who say oba say your pay eh?
It's been long since you ever felt like this.
Welcome to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Akwaba Magic. Efie. Welcome home to Akwaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
Sale, you're gonna direct. Now, what's this saying? With Dewa NLA 539 Direct, you only have to select up to 5 numbers from 1 to 39. To play, dial *446# across all mobile networks and select option 1. With a minimum of 2 Ghana cedis, you can bet on Direct 1. Match the first number and win 20 times your stake. Direct 2. Match 2 numbers and win 45 times your stake. Direct 3. Match 3 numbers and win 400 times your stake. Direct 4. Match 4 and win 5,000 times your stake. Direct 5. Match all 5 numbers to win 50,000 times your stake. The more you play, the more you win. Look out for the draw results on TV3 News at 7 p.m. Win easy, win every day with Dewa NLA 539 Direct. Afa, winning no, it choke.
Coco, piles, hemorrhoids. Could there be a lasting solution to this ailment? Oh yes, you can trust Pylin capsules from Iona Pharmacy. Pylin, P-Y-L-I-N. Do you have protrusions around your anal opening? Do you suffer chronic constipation? However piles manifest in your body, get Pylin. Pylin has been carefully formulated for piles. Pylin is a plant medicine. Remember, P-Y-L-I-N. Pylin is available in all pharmacies, herbal shops and licensed chemical shops across the country. For bulk purchase, contact Iona Pharmacy, Accra 0553 134 185. Kumasi 0243 123 224. Pylin, the lasting solution for piles. Not recommended for pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children below 12. This advert is FDA approved.
I feel at home whenever I'm in front of the camera. It reminds me of the time when I was a little boy. I used to entertain my family.
After all, it's our story. For the best of your original dramas, telenovelas, and sports, get your GoTV decoder, GoTenna, and a month of GoTV Plus for as little as 109 cedis. Download my GoTV app to easily manage your account on the go. GoTV. Love it.
Celebration remains a powerful force in our cultural and daily lives. Whatever victory, we celebrate large or small. We cherish the beauty of togetherness. Come celebrate with us on GMB this week as the ladies make good memories of cultural events. The night will be special and enjoyable. To keep your favorite contestant in the competition, dial *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and follow the prompt. Join us in Studio B at 8 p.m. Audiences are strictly by invitation and all COVID protocols are strictly observed. GMB 2021, rediscovering true beauty.
GMB 2021 shows Sundays at
8 p.m.
and repeats Fridays at 3 p.m. and is sponsored by Lavon's Tomato Mix, Camel now from Kerex, Freedom from Casaprecon, GTP, Darling Lemon Drink, Airtel Tigo's Big Time Bundles,
Lufat,
Deluxe Super Fix Tile Cement, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, and Napa Mackerel,
Geisha, Close Up,
Ayo Insurance, and supported by
When we started at 12 as another TV cooking show, We showcase their cuisines, introduce you to their recipes, and told you tales of our chefs. Thanks to your viewership, it's grown into a cooking brand embraced by a lot more of you and the best of chefs. It's phenomenal. It reignites the passion for cooking if you ever had it, opens you up to new food ideas if you are willing to try. It's where dreams are formed. A beginner's dream of cooking their favorite meal, dreams of owning and running a huge eatery, of sitting among soups and stews and telling culinary tales. Now tune in and open up Chef's Diaries with us. Watch all of these super Afro chefs in the sub-region and experience their world-famous recipes as they tell tales of their culinary journeys.
Chef Diaries is brought to you by
TBG. We stand with you.
And supported by Tasty Tom. Strength comes from within. Frito sunflower oil, Fortune Rice, Yaz luxury tissues, and GTP.
Chef Diaries shows Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. on TV3.
We are ready to reach for greatness. The 6th EMY Africa Awards is coming. Which one of your champions, warriors, heroes, and breakthroughs will make it to the nominations list for the 6th EMY Africa Awards? Tune in to TV3 on Saturday the 31st of July 2021 at 8 p.m. and on YouTube via @Emmy Africa Network for the live nominations announcement and the launch of the 6th EMY Africa Awards. Catch all the thrills and excitement. Don't miss a thing. The 6th EMY Africa Awards. Reach for greatness.
Life after 60 can be a long, lonely road. But for persons who learned early in life the culture of savings, it should be a rewarding experience.
But I was able to manage because my work go face on now my share say kakra. Before my pension, no me akasa mi fie.
But thousands of workers cannot boast of saying no savings, no pensions, and generally no consistent money stream.
Some of them too come here to report that even their children are not taking care of them.
How late is too late? Nanekia Mensa Brampa in Pensions explores the realities of Ghana's savings culture, the plight of current pensioners, and how to take advantage of your working life to secure a financially sound retirement. Pensions, life's realities after 60, the stories, the experiences, and the reality. Premieres on 3rd August 2021 at 9:30 p.m. on TV3, on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and all updates on 3news.com.
Now this week on the Ladies Circle, we're talking all things fibroids.
Symptoms that might come as a result of fibroids are heavy menstrual bleeding.
How did you discover that you had fibroids?
I found out that I had fibroids after I went to get a scan. And I went to get the scan because I noticed my lower abdomen was way too big. I could see it in a t-shirt, you know, and for me that's a red flag. Baby, Mobbing Titi and Tam, baby.
What was the feeling like when you discovered that you had fibroids?
He's like, I know a doctor who is a friend. But I was like, listen, am I going to be able to give birth after surgery?
Oh.
Is this like all the questions you can imagine?
Who you taking home tonight? I didn't feel you when I
6, 7, 8, 9. 9, my darlings, 9.
The Ladies Circle, Saturday 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Yaz Sanitary Pad, Vodafone, GTP, still timeless.
Woodin,
Cowbell, Our Milk.
Welcome back. So this is the Key Points live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. We'll start off with a conversation looking at the mid-year review of the 2021 budget statement and economic policy of the government as delivered by the Minister of Finance on the 29th of July 2021 in the House of Parliament. We'll be taking a story put together to give us a wrap on exactly what happened in Parliament on the said day and matters coming subsequent to that. But let me quickly introduce our panelists for this part of the conversation. We have in the studio from my extreme left, Dr. Ebo Texan. He's an economist. Next to him is the Honourable Kweku Ricketts-Hagan. He is the MP for Cape Coast South constituency and a former Deputy Minister of Finance. On Zoom, we have been joined by the Honourable Dr. John Kuma, a Deputy Minister for Finance and also the MP for Ejiso constituency. Good morning, gentlemen, in studio and on Zoom. It's good to have you.
Good morning.
Great. So as I indicated, we have a story which puts matters in perspective here regarding the mid-year review, particularly looking at jobs and the issue about job creation and dealing with youth unemployment. Let's take a listen to that story and come to the panelists.
National Labour Organization indicates that unemployment rate in Ghana increased to 4.50% in 2020 from 4.10% in 2019 due to the coronavirus pandemic. But Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says the introduction of the Youth Bank and the revitalization of the Venture Capital Fund for the creation of 1 million jobs by 2024 should mitigate the impacts of the pandemic.
Government is today announcing a 1 million jobs initiatives to aggressively respond to the needs of the country. This is to promote growth in SMEs, support new ventures, and stimulate innovation and startups. We will set up a youth bank with the aim of financing youth-led startup businesses across the country. As part of this initiative, an online investment hub will be established for youth across the country to access information for the purpose of establishing businesses.
A national unemployment scheme, which was introduced in the 2020 budget, is at the design phase to provide a roadmap for skills training and development.
Government announced in the 2020 mid-year review of fiscal policy the establishment of the National Unemployment Insurance Scheme and training retraining programs as part of the Ghana Cares for Batampa program. Mr. Speaker, we are currently in the design phase of the National Unemployment Scheme and key stakeholders are being consulted. The consultations will be scaled up to include more stakeholders and technical experts to ensure that the project design suits the Ghanaian labour market.
The implementation of these interventions are under the ambitious 100 billion cedis Ghana Cares Obatampa program, which will be funded through foreign direct investment and private-public partnerships.
Right, so that was a wrap there looking at what happened in Parliament on the 29th of July 2021 when the Minister for Finance, Honourable Ken Ofori-Atta, went to present the mid-year fiscal policy review of the 2021 budget statement and economic policy of government. And that story particularly looked at the bit about jobs and how government intends to deal with job creation or the unemployment situation for the remaining part of the year and indeed beyond. As indicated, we have in the studio Dr. Ebo Texan, also Honourable Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, and on Zoom, Honourable Dr. John Kuma. Dr. John Kuma, I would want to start with you, but I think you need to position your monitor well because we don't have you well in the shot. So I would have to come back to... Yes, I think this is better. We can work with this. Honourable, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Very well.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for joining us. If you could kindly turn, position it in a landscape format, that would be very good for us.
Oh, landscape format.
Yes, please. Very well. So let me come to Dr. Ebo Texan. Doc, it's good to have you. The mid-year review statement presented didn't come with a supplementary budget, as we normally would expect. A number of issues have been raised in respect of that and other things. But generally, your thoughts on the mid-year review statement given, which seems to emphasize on youth policies.
Okay, good morning. Good morning to my fellow panelists and then to your viewers. I mean, for the first time in so many years, we had a mid-year review that didn't come with a supplementary budget. which means that the government is going to keep within the budget figures that they gave us in March. Normally, you would have a situation where government at this time would have had an impression that the revenue targets would not be met, and also possibly spending would be above what they expected. So they normally come up with a supplementary to make up for the shortfall. I think that this year, the revenue projections based on our oil prices and the revenue that was going to come to support the budget, the projections for oil has gone above the price that we projected. So I should think that there should be some extra revenue coming in. I also think that the merging of the Ghana card numbers with the thing that has brought in a lot of potential taxpayers is something that I think the government is hoping the second year would bring in more revenue. And so if there is any intention of spending a little bit, it will be within the fiscal deficit. And so that might be the reason why this year we are not having a situation of that sort. I've heard others say that, it's possible that by getting to the end of the year, something will come up. All of our projections for this year is also based on the likely potential of the Delta variant going beyond our control. And so I should think that if all things go well, and in case we are able to contain the Delta variant like we've done in the past, then I do not foresee how the government can come up with another supplementary budget to make up for whatever shortfalls that they did envisage. And so it's refreshing to hear that for the first time in so many years. And we hope that we don't have any situation of that sort arising. But of course, I mean, if, for instance, the pandemic goes out of hand and there is some restrictions in movement and then possibly closure of certain sectors, then we would need to make up for the potential losses that will come with that. So it's all based on we being able to move beyond the pandemic. And I think that if we do what we've done in the past, and every Ghanaian in his own way is keeping to the safety protocols, I think that that will help the economy to recover faster than we expected.
Very well. Thanks for that. Let me turn to Dr. John Kumar. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Good. I think, yes. I think we can work with this for now. Yes. Good. So the presentation, I mean, if you take a critical look at it, it was quite loaded with some policies geared towards the youth, dealing with job creation, youth unemployment issues and all of that. You talk about 1 million jobs initiative, which is intended to create employment for over 1 million youth over the next 2.5 years. There's also the Enterprise and Youth Support Fund, which is to set up the Youth Bank. And also that is with the aim of financing youth-led startup businesses across the country. And there's also the Obatampa Youth Entrepreneurship Drive. Now, these obviously, indeed, the finance minister refers to them as ambitious projects. And the fact that this mid-year review review statement didn't come with a supplementary budget has raised issues, or has raised issues by many concerned that how then are these projects going to be implemented, because they were not contained within the 2021 appropriation. So how do you convince people that indeed these projects that have been proposed can actually take off?
Yes, thank you, and good morning to your viewers. In this mid-year budget review, we had about 3 objectives. Number 1 was to send a strong signal of fiscal consolidation and government decision to be disciplined on its targets, fiscal targets. So, as you have rightly stated, we didn't ask for any supplementary budget, and we are working to the original 2021 target, especially on the fiscal deficit of 9.5%, so that by 2024, we can come back to the fiscal threshold of 5% as enshrined in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Secondly, we also understand the economic difficulties of the time, so we didn't introduce any new measures on taxes, any policy that could bring any further hardship in the system. And then thirdly, the focus was on youth job agenda. young people that the problem of youth unemployment was so critical to this government, and we want to be able to address this problem. And we are going to address that problem with a target of 1 million job creation, which we have put under the Obatampa Cares program. Under the Obatampa Cares program, we are looking forward to raise about 100 billion cedis. Of course, 70 billion cedis through the private sector, and government itself is to raise about 30 billion cedis. And as part of that we are looking to use the youth agenda of job creation is going to come under. So we introducing what we call the U Bank, which is going to be working through the existing banking system that we have in the country. That we are like the commercial banks and all the other banks that we have. All we need to do is to have a special desk that have attention for young people in our country. So you go there not to get funding scale up, but not on commercial terms and arrangement. Government is going to make sure that you are going to get conditions like non-collaterals and flexible interest rates and repayments, so that young people across the country can have access to funding that can scale up their businesses.
Very well. So, okay, carry on.
That is one. Secondly, we are going to put up an interministerial job creation committee, and it's going to be from Ministry of Youth and Sports through the NYA project, the National Youth Authority. We are going to use the Ministry of Labour and Employment and the Youth Employment Agency. The Ministry of Lands and Forestry has also come out with an alternative livelihood support program for galamseyers. So we are also going to rope them in. That program alone is targeting about 500,000 youth. The Galamsey Alternative Livelihood Project, that alone is about 500,000.
Let me just seek some clarification here, because earlier the question that I asked was looking at how these proposals or policies would be funded, given that they were not, catered for in the 2021 budget. That was my earlier question. But am I hearing you say that some aspects of that were catered for in the 2021 appropriation, and so that is how it's going to be funded?
Yes. In fact, it was already provided in the 2021 budget in the appropriation. We spoke about Obatampa Cares in the 2021 budget. And the 1 million jobs we are talking about is in a period of 3 years. So at least the portion for the next 6 months is provided within the Obatampa Cares program for this year. And then in the 2022 budget, we are going to make further allocations until the 2023 budget for us to be able to complete. But when we talk about 1 million jobs for young people...
But before that, let me still interrogate on the funding. Sorry, Honorable. Before that, let me still interrogate on the funding, because that obviously is a great concern to people. Now, at paragraph 115 of the minister's statement, he indicates that, let me just read that. He said, Mr. Speaker, these interventions are clearly designed to bring us closer to confronting the jobs and employment challenges of our youth. Then he says, to ensure dedicated resources, the Ministry of Finance and all participating institutions will next month sign an implementation compact on youth employment, which will tie release of resources to delivery of results. Now, what is this compact about? And if indeed this has already been taken care of, why this proposal to get into a compact?
Okay, so as part of the Obatampa Cares interventions, which is beyond the usual allocations that is made in the budget for all ministries and agencies, we have already signed compact with some ministries, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ministry of Tourism, and we are also going to sign the Youth Compact under the same Obatampa Cares. So it is just a delivery process or implementation process to have a specific amount allocated for a specific cause. The generality of the fund has already been appropriated in the 2021 budget.
Okay, very well. Let me bring in Are you done, or you wanted to?
Yes, but I was trying to explain that when we say 1 million jobs, we are not only talking about government jobs, even though government has started giving financial clearance for people to be recruited into the government sectors. We are also talking about jobs in the private sector that we are going to do through a number of government agencies like the National Entrepreneurship Program, the NBFSI, which is now the Ghana Enterprise Agencies, the National Youth Authority, and the Youth Employment Agencies. So we are going to forcefully push for job creation in the private sector as well.
Very well. Now, lastly, before I come to Honorable Ricketts Hagan, you see, there are those who are saying that, well, perhaps, as you've explained, maybe there was some allocation under the 2021 appropriation for these, and so they are not necessarily entirely new things that will now look for funding. There are those who are asking that. Let's look at the prudence of these initiatives, because they are already in existence, similar initiatives or proposals. I talk about, the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. Already there's a Venture Capital Trust Fund, and there's even a National Investment Bank, which, deals with all of these kinds of arrangements intended to, shore up or, enhance entrepreneurship among the youth. So why come up with these new things again, when basically it's like just bringing new ideas, when indeed the existing policies are not necessarily being implemented to the satisfaction of many?
Well, you always need new ideas to improve on existing structures. What we are coming up is not going to build any new structure. We are working fund for equity provision into. So venture capital fund is one. And I told you about the inter-ministerial arrangement. These are ministries that already exist. And when you come to the U Bank, it is the same commercial banks already existing, but only creating a product that will specifically focus on young people and to direct attention and focus of government policy. So it is just to enhance and bring much more efficiency on the existing structures that we have. We are not creating new structures, but we want to enhance resource and improve efficiency by focusing or directing resources on the youth agenda when it comes to job creation.
Very well. At this point, let me bring in Honorable Ricketts Hagan. You've heard these policies, 1 million jobs initiative, the Enterprise and Youth Support Fund to set up a youth bank, which the minister explains will be a product, not necessarily a bank that will be set up, but a banking product. And then there's Obantapa Youth Entrepreneurship Drive and all of that. Questioned as to how it will be funded, he explains that, well, there are some aspects of it catered for already in the 2021 budget. And then saying that these are not necessarily new creations, but basically to enhance already existing arrangements or policies that are in the system. Your thoughts on this? I know, by the way, the NDC has described this mid-year review as a travesty of justice, correct?
Yes. Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers and my colleagues.
Oh, I'm sorry about the travesty of justice. I think that was in relation to another topic. Forgive me about that, which we'll be discussing next. Yes, forgive me.
Well, I think everything at the moment is a travesty of, justice to Ghanaians or injustice. It's quite interesting when you listen to my honorable brother and also listen to the finance minister on what he presented. It's always a good idea to hear that a government is coming for a mid-year review and is not asking for, a supplementary budget. Basically not asking for new money, which will then mean that we are spending within our means, or we are being prudent with the management of our economy and handling, So that you would say it's a good thing.
Right.
If government comes and say, I'm not come to ask, the citizens of Ghana any more taxes, you would again think, who wants to pay taxes? I mean, if we can get away with it, though we want the services and everything, that will also sound like a good thing. We're sticking with the same appropriation,
which obviously is linked to, the supplementary budget. All these things sound good and may get you excited. But in the end, you realize that the excitement was for nothing. That is basically what this budget, this media review present. Number one, you come to Parliament and you said you don't want any money. Well, Parliament doesn't give money to the finance minister. We do approve,
yeah.
And then you go as a finance ministry and go and look for the money. Basically, the money you're looking for is to fund your deficit, which is the difference between what you have presented as your expenditure program and the revenues that you will use to obviously, offset that. Whatever the difference you get becomes your deficit, which is funded, basically, through borrowing or other funding mix. So if you come and you say that you don't want any money, the picture I get, having been on the other side, is that you can't actually find money. Because when we approve the budget, you have to go and find the money. When you have borrowed to the hilt, where would you be getting that money from? When the people who lend money to you and make profit from you, the World Bank and the others are telling you that we are even scared of lending money to you, then you have a problem. So obviously, we can give you an approval, but you might not be able to find the money. If you do, that money could be very expensive. In terms of your revenue, which is obviously your first point of call, getting money, you are not meeting that revenue. Obviously, the first half revenue figures that we have received tells us clearly that there's a gap between what was projected and what we've been able to realize.
Right.
Now, that's why we do media review, because that gives you an indication that you might not meet the target that you have set. Revenue works in some funny way. Sometimes some may come in later and all that, so you think that maybe you make up for that.
Is that what Doc was talking about, the expected oil revenue?
Yes, absolutely. But oil prices
you can't bank
is not controlled by the Republic of Ghana. So let's hope that it stays that way. But as the world economy, everybody's trying to get out of the pandemic situation, you will get the demand, and then obviously the prices will go up. When we get to a certain level, prices will begin to drop again. Quite apart from that, the fossil fuel itself is not an area to bank on at the moment, because globally, especially in the Western world, they are trying to move away from fossil fuel. So a time will come that you will be an oil country, or among the oil ranking countries, but you actually get very little from that.
Right.
So basically, the money is not there actually even to, But then you look at what they have done, why they've been able to decide that we are not going to ask for new money. The expenditure programs, the numerous expenditure programs that came out of manifestos and all that, now they are chopping them.
I mean, they are modifying them, or
they are basically chopping them.
As in,
for instance, you're going to build 111 district or hospitals. That's going to cost us in the budget 1.4 billion. Now, in the media review, it's now been slashed to 700 million. So
but that should be a good thing, that they realize that maybe we're overly ambitious. So now let's just...
This budget can excite you. And then if you don't pay, you think, oh, this is a good thing. Now, just think about it. You're going to build a house. The house is going to cost 1.4 billion. Okay? Say today, you look at what has happened in the country in the last cement and everything has gone up. I'm just taking it from a very practical standpoint.
Right.
So you expect to have even a variation in the cost that was projected today against the cost that will be projected tomorrow or projected last week and today. So you will expect the figure to rather go up. If it's going down, then we are probably reducing the number of units that we want to build. So this thing has to be explained. It's not just a matter of getting up one morning and reducing, this project figure. The hospitals haven't changed in terms of number, but the price has changed. So we've got to be, very careful about that. Now, you get this issue, the whole issue is based on debt. At the 2021 budget, we were told that our debt is 291 billion, of which about 141 billion is external and about 149 billion is domestic or internal debt. In the first half of this year, that figure has gone up to 334 billion, which means that within the last 6 months, we have added about 40 billion onto our debts. Where did that 40 billion come from? Most of it, came from the Eurobond that was done. 5 billion Eurobond that was projected. So basically, all the debt in terms of external Eurobond has already been done. If you ask them to explain, why is it that your debt has gone up so much? The answer is, we have front-loaded the financing. So they've used all the allocation for the 1 year to front-load. Let's hope that there are projects that they have front-loaded that will yield some result. Now, you go to what they have done in the last, 2017, because now we are focusing on youth unemployment, which is a great thing. Youth unemployment is a time bomb for all of us. And whichever political, shade of political party that's in power, if they don't address the youth unemployment problem, we are going to have something serious on our hands.
Right.
Now, if you look at what they've done in the last few years, this is not the first time they are addressing unemployment and youth unemployment problem. But it has not yielded much result, because if you look at the things they've done, planting for food and jobs was supposed to create jobs pretty much for everyone, but much emphasis and focus on the youth. You look at one district, one factory, supposed to create jobs for everyone. Again, much emphasis on youth with entrepreneurship and all that. We have absorbed, or the government says they have absorbed 100,000 of graduate unemployed, people.
Right.
That is supposed to have taken something of the unemployment situation. Now, I'll just show you a simple graph here, and I'm happy that we have a doc here. So this graph was not produced by me. It was not produced by Honorable Ato Forsen. It came from International Labour Organization. It's on their platform. Now, let's ignore all this because it's telling you about youth unemployment rate from 1999 to 2019. This is very interesting in the sense that we don't want to talk about 2020 because when you talk about 2020, they will put everything on the COVID. This is pre-COVID. Now, when you look here, from unemployment started for the youth, we are just specifically youth, started going up on the President Kufuor in 2005, the second term. It peaked when NDC was in power in 2015, and it started coming down 2015 up until NDC left power in 2017. From 2017, 2019, basically, this is what economists, and I'm glad we have a doctor here, will tell you that this is a flat curve. So when you look here, unemployment, So basically what I'm trying to say is that with all the programs that they have already executed or supposed to have executed, you would expect that the trend of unemployment in terms of youth unemployment,
we are not seeing any change.
We are not seeing anything.
Very well.
Now they are talking about more things. Now the issue I have, and I'll probably end with this one.
Yes,
to do with the care, which is supposed to be creating the kind of jobs they are talking about for the youth. This is what was presented to us in the budget. This Obatan Care. Yes. At the time, This is the thing they have done. Beautiful stuff with all these pictures and all that. It tells you here, would Ghana Care lead to job creation? In bold, it says, the program is targeted at creating 420,000 productive and decent jobs. Now, overnight, we're creating 1 million jobs.
So you're raising issues about the realistic nature of that.
It's great if you are creating 1 million, but then how are you going to do that if you are not requesting any funding from anyone to do that?
Very well. Let me just go back to we'll definitely come back to that. But let me come back to or go back to Honorable Dr. John Kumar. Doc, can you hear me? Can you unmute your mic? I think it's off. Yes. So
I can hear you.
Very well. I'm sure you heard the submissions of Honorable Ricketts Hagan raising issues about, how realistic these proposals in terms of the youth, entrepreneurship drive and all, how realistic those proposals are against the backdrop of, again, like we've already talked about, you not asking for more money, and then also looking at the numbers that we have quoted as being, the targets we are seeking to achieve. Let's address that briefly, and then we'll go to the issue about public debt, because that obviously is also another important area. So please, if you could react to the submissions made by Honorable Ricketts Hagan.
Yes, yes, very, very realistic target. First of all, the Obatampa case is a 100 billion cedis program. And under no circumstance are you going to say that all the 100 billion cedis program is going to create 400 maybe different specific program. And focus to address the youth unemployment program in the next medium term of 3 years. We are going to create 1 million jobs. And I've explained the processes through the private sector and through the public sector, how we are going to achieve that. Also, on the question of the unemployment graph that is shown to you, I have seen that document, and clearly the document confirms that in the time of the NDC, Ghana was at its peak of unemployment. And if you check from 2017 to date, the particular graph he refers to is flat. And not just flat, it's even heading towards downwards. What that means is that government has been able to reduce unemployment from the high levels that the NDC government left it to a very low level, and we are still pursuing it downwards. So he should give proper interpretation to the graph that he's showing. And all the evidence is clear. Planting for Food and Jobs has created nearly 2 million jobs for farmers across the country. And the impact is there. Today, as we speak, Ghana has hit the highest production of cocoa in our history. We are still in the season and already exceeded 1,030,000 metric tons. So,
but can you attribute that achievement, as you put it, to Planting for Food and Jobs? Because as we know, Planting for Food and Jobs focused on a particular kind of, if you like, crops, not necessarily including cocoa.
Yes, but every cocoa farm plants the other crops like maize, plantain, cocoyam, and all those things.
So yes, if you are measuring the achievements, using the cocoa production may not necessarily be, accurate in trying to attribute.
It is very, very accurate if you are discussing the economy of Ghana and whether we are making progress or not. If you check the history of Ghana, every time you have very high performance of cocoa production, it reflects on positive economic performance of the country. So we cannot discount the performance of the agricultural sector in terms of reaching the highest levels of cocoa production. It shows the policy of the government, the pollination.
I appreciate that. It's just that I'm saying this within the context of what has happened recently, where we have poultry farmers, complain about shortage of maize, when we were told that the Planting for Food and Jobs had actually led to an overabundance production of maize. And so perhaps if we stick to, the crops that Planting for Food and Jobs focused on, then we would be better positioned to assess.
We are talking about jobs, not crops. So let's stay.
No, but that's fine. But you brought in the bit about cocoa production and linking it to planting for food and jobs, which is why I sought to, get that clarification. That's all.
Okay, I understand. But the point I want to make is that he is seeking to tell us that planting for food and jobs has not yielded the necessary results for the country. And I'm telling you that it has, and a number of ways, including cocoa production. He's also talking about one district, one factory. As we speak, this is the first time in our Fourth Republic that any government has initiated over 232 factories within his first term. And today, as we speak, about 88 of these factories are in operation, creating thousands of jobs for young people in our country. It's also ongoing. So all the interventions of government are clearly adding on to job creation, and the new ideas that we are bringing in terms of the U-Bank and through the Obatan Packers is to further deepen the economic opportunities for young people to have access to job creation. That's all that we are doing. And if he says that
Okay, we're having some challenges with the connection.
And the allocation for job creation will come through the youth compact that we are going to sign under the Obatan Packers. So clearly that has been taken care of as far as the budget. So I think the budget is on course to deliver exactly what government has programmed to achieve within the year.
Very well. We are having issues with connection, so let's just get a number of things out of the way. Let's look at your proposal for women, what you call women-focused intervention. That also is an interesting one, where the minister indicated that to advance the economic well-being of women, government is activating a policy to have 20% of procurement awarded to women. That obviously has raised a lot of eyebrows. Wondering how that would be done in a way that would ensure that, women across board would be beneficiaries and not necessarily skewed to a certain category of people. And here, people have been blunt to talk about the fact that we should perhaps pursue a system that would do away with party capture. Let's understand how this would work.
Okay. Yes, you're right. One of the key policy focus of government is to help bridge the gap of inequality. And women, even though they constitute the majority of the population of Ghana, about 51%, sometimes when you want to look at the
We can't hear you.
Sometimes come very low. The women usually come low on it. So one of the positive discrimination policy of the government is to focus on women. And if you remember, this was a campaign promise, I think even in 2017, where government announced that 30% of procurement, local procurement, shall be outsourced to women, youth, and persons with disability. So this is just to reinforce that policy, that government is going to be deliberate in outsourcing or procuring services of women so that we can empower young women to come up the ladder. If you check the statistics of rich people in Ghana, only 6% of them are women. And government needs to bring up the numbers of women who are empowered in the country. So it's a policy direction to encourage all women and of course to also be deliberate in encouraging businesses led by women to be catered for, because sometimes when you leave it on open competition, they tend to be crowded out.
Sure. So what's the government's plan? What's the implementation plan? How is this to be undertaken? Hello? Connection is bad there. We'll try to get back to you, Honorable. In the meantime, no, it's breaking. It's really bad. Let me come to you, Doc. All these the youth proposals that we've talked about, you've heard the responses come from the minority, and then, of course, from government. Listening to that, what do you make of it? And then tie that into the bit about the women-focused intervention as well. Obviously, a laudable one, but how it's to be implemented could very well end up in, you know, a different situation altogether.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the fact of the matter is Africa as a continent is going to be home to the majority of youth that are going to be unemployed by 2030. So every government in Africa is expected to have programs in place to see how best they can get jobs for the youth. Because at the center of most of the civil strife that has come all over the world has been the youth, who feel that they are being marginalized. And so Africa has something to do with that. So I was excited about the budget review, and especially the 2021 budget that pretended that it was going to give some focus to the youth in terms of entrepreneurship and in terms of supporting them to do something on their own. This issue about youth unemployment, it's something that we need to take a second look at, in the sense that why are you finding it very difficult to get into jobs? Is it because of the part of socialization that makes it look like you can only get formal sector jobs to do, and begin to find ways in which we can equip our youth to be able to leave schools, transit after secondary or the university level, and employ themselves, self-employment. And of course, that will also mean that we need to open up opportunities for them and give them some resources to dare to be their own employers. And I'm happy that one of the opportunities that came out of this COVID was the use of technology to self-employ.
Doctor, sorry, but I'd have to, ask you to pause because the deputy minister has been raised on the telephone line. We need to get to him, and then I'll come back to you because he's on the phone. Honorable Doc, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. So, yes, we're grateful for your time now. And yes, you are making your submissions regarding the women-focused intervention. And I had asked how that is going to be implemented. Let us understand what the framework of implementation will be like to ensure that indeed women across board would be, the ultimate beneficiaries and not necessarily skewed to a certain group of people.
So I was saying that this was not a new policy. It started in 2017. The then Ministry for Procurement started the stakeholders' engagement on the implementation of this program. And I think we have gone far in terms of how to implement it. All the various government ministries and departments and agencies who handle government procurement have been consulted on how this implementation can be done on a fair and transparent and equitable basis, so that women who particularly participate in the procurement processes can achieve a certain percentage of the awards. So this has been done already through the then Ministry of Procurement in terms of the consultations and stakeholder engagement and how to implement that program.
Right.
So it
now
is in federal that government
the
is
Ministry for
pushing
Procurement.
ahead this program to support women.
Sorry, Doc, I'm saying that ministry, like you said, this was done under that ministry when it was in existence. It's no longer in existence, correct? And so where is it currently
the policy framework
situated?
Has already been designed. That's the point I'm trying to make.
But which ministry is now handling it?
Now to be handled by the Procurement Authority.
Okay.
Under the Ministry of Finance.
Very well. Very well. Okay, so let's look at the public debt stock. We are told that the debt to GDP ratio currently is at 77.1%, and that is an increase from 76.1% at the end of December 2020. Now, we could tell from the presentation that the minister sought to exclude or attempted to, create a better picture by suggesting that if you take out the financial sector bailout and the energy sector bailout, then you'd be seeing, some 72.9%. But what it is it's all part of the debt stock. And so we have that, 77.1%. What do you say to people who are saying, and indeed, Honorable Ricketts here has even raised that issue about literally, borrowing out of, up to the roof and leading us to a certain situation where we have this debt to GDP ratio, which is clearly over and above the acceptable, should I say, matrix?
Well, so let's put the debt discussion in context, and it is always in context of COVID, because all over the world, every nation at this time has been adding on to their debts. America recently added $1.9 trillion to their public debt because of COVID expenditures. UK has shot up from 60% to 99%. Japan is currently the leading country in the world, 234% of their GDP. Greece is 181% of their GDP. All over the world, if you go to Germany or Italy, or every country at the moment is looking to preserve their people and not looking at how much debt they are adding on. So clearly, if you look at the West Africa regional average on debt, it was 35%, but today, as we speak, it's almost 60%. So there's clear, just within 1 year, there is a global surge on public debt in every country. So let's put that in perspective. Also, the issue about the contingent liabilities like this one-off payments, the banking sector cleanup exercise, where we spent over 20 billion, I think 25 billion cedis cleaning the banking sector. It was a one-off program, which now I can confidently tell you that it has ended, and government is seeking now to reap the benefits from that exercise. So when the minister tries to take those contingent liabilities from the main debt, it makes sense because these were one-off events. If you look at the energy sector debt, it is also being addressed through the ESLA bonds and the new revenue-specific revenue streams to address those take-or-pay contracts which brought extra liabilities on our public debt. So that is why sometimes when the minister is giving the debt issues, he wants to clarify that when you take these contingent liabilities from the general public debt, it is not as alarming as it is projected. And even the IMF, in their last board meeting in July, they commended Ghana for our efforts in management of COVID. They said that, yes, Ghana is financially distressed, but we have the capacity to address that problem is very much adequate. Yeah. And so let us not be so worried about the state of our public debt. Let me tell you, Ghana has never defaulted on our repayment, at least in the last 4 or 5 years, or even in the midst of the COVID. And so there is no cause for concern. Even
but Doc,
countries
let me pause you there just a minute and interrogate that statement further. Doc, just a minute.
Please, what did you say?
I'm saying let's pause there and interrogate that statement further. To say that we, looking at the fact that we've never defaulted on our commitments, yes. I think really and truly, yes, we may not have, but when a substantial amount of our revenue is used for debt servicing, that is definitely a cause for concern. And so
yes,
whether or not we default on, we really should be concerned.
The solution to that is not to be worried. The solution for that is to be creative about how you increase your revenues.
But are we being creative?
Is responding to that effectively by the introduction of the new program we called RACE, Revenue Assurance, Compliance and Enforcement, which is now, and also adopting digitalization measures at the moment. We have introduced the Ghana.gov. We are merging our TIN numbers with the Ghana card, which will shoot taxpayers from 3 million to 17 million to capture more people in the tax net. We need to increase the amount of revenues we raise so that we can bring down our debt levels. That one, I agree with you. But we are already taking measures, which very soon we are going to see that these extended or expanded measures of tax collection, through this digitalization, we have discovered that in Ghana, we have about 60,000 professionals who do not pay income tax. About 60,000. lawyers, doctors, engineers, they operate their own firms. At the end of the day, if they don't voluntarily go and pay, nobody chases them. So the leakages in the system and the inefficiencies, the digitalization processes is helping us to identify those problems and address them. And I believe that in time we will be able to increase our revenue. If you check our revenue collection percentage, it is woefully inadequate. So I agree about 12% when the original average is supposed to be 20 to 25%. And when we are able to increase our revenue collections, then obviously we will not be so bothered about how much of that percentage goes into debt servicing. It will
perhaps
definitely
that we
come
don't
down.
borrow as much.
So on that score, I totally agree with you.
Very well. I think we can end it here. We need to take a break. Thanks, Honorable Dr. John Kuma. He is a Deputy Minister for Finance. We appreciate your time here. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're left with the two panelists in studio, and we'll do some analysis to the outstanding matters. See you shortly after the break.
Whatever the occasion, with ATL, you can never be out of style. ATL, bringing fabric to life.
Hello, Ghana. I introduce you to the #1 combined harvesters in the whole universe, the World Combined Harvester. World Combined Harvesters come with automatic gear drive, diesel-powered engines, 1.77 cubic meter grain storage tanks, 2.2 meter cutting width, 360-degree unloading pipe, and a sunshade. World Combined Harvesters are best suited for crops such as rice, corn, wheat, and soya bean. To buy or hire a World Combined Harvester, kindly call the sole distributor, CAM Trading and Farms Limited, on 0546 372014 or 0278 223811. World Combined Harvesters, your #1 combined harvester in the whole wide world.
Michelle Obama once said, "There is no limit to what we as women can accomplish." Glitz Africa presents the 6th annual Ghana Women of the Year Honors, a night to celebrate the nation builders, the pace setters, the change makers, the women changing the narrative. Ghana Women of the Year Honors 2021 takes place at the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel Accra on Sunday, the 1st of August at 5 p.m. live on TV3 and on the Glitz Africa YouTube channel, honoring Engineer Carlian Bouchadid, Dr. Juliet Twakli, Honorable Shirley Ayoko Botre, Angela Dramna Abuaji, PhD, Doreen Ando, Akofa Ejeni, Mercy Tego Kweku, Jean Mensa, Rebecca Ichampon, Nana Oforiata Eyim, Patricia Obunai, Abina Osei Poku. Partners, the UNFPA, supported by Verve Clico and Sunlight. Media partners. For inquiries, call 050-158-1265 or 0302-798-513. Or you can email womenoftheyear@glitzafrica.com. Ghana Women of the Year Honors. Women inspiring women.
Introducing Nestle Milo All-in-One Nutrimix. The goodness of malt, milk and cocoa in Milo, and even more milk. Just add to water and enjoy the perfect cup of winning energy. Milo! This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to The Key Points. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So we are looking at the mid-year review of the 2021 budget statement and economic policy of government. In the studio, we have Dr. Abel Texan, an economist, and also Honorable Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, former Deputy Minister for Finance. Earlier on, we spoke to Honorable Dr. John Kuma, a Deputy Minister for Finance. Doc, let me come back to you. I had to, interrupt there when, I had to cross over to Mr. John Kuma, Dr. John Kuma for submission. So I'll come back to you on the youth unemployment issue, and then we'll delve into the bit about revenue and then what government has proposed raise to help with revenue generation.
Yeah, so I was making the point that it's refreshing that we are targeting the youth this time to make sure that we get them to jobs. But I also mentioned that I think that it's critical that we change the whole psyche of our youth who are always seeking wage employment, to be self-employed. And I think that the COVID made some of the youth realize that they can be very innovative to set up their own. And I've had lots of students that I taught who have left school and are now doing things on their own. And so if there's any financial support that is going to come to them, I think that it's a step in the right direction.
Right.
Now, with regards to the issue about the revenue, I share entirely the sentiments of the Deputy Minister that this is not a time we should be talking about our debt. I get worried when we should be focusing on recovering our economy, and rather our focus is on the debt. I don't care if our debt gets to 100% of our GDP. Insofar as
that be part of the recovery process?
Precisely.
The debt,
insofar as the debt is being built up to expand our economy to get it to recover. Because when we get people into jobs, when we expand our economy, the size of the expansion itself will bring down the debt stock as a percentage of the GDP. That's the first thing. The second thing too is that once you expand the economy, even with the same taxpayers, with production and incomes increasing, we are going to have an increase in our revenue. So these revenue optimization measures that are currently being pursued would increase not only the number of persons in the net, but also would bring in more revenue. As soon as the revenues come in, we are going to get a fiscal space that will allow us to service the debt and get extra to fund other things that we want to do. And for me, the issue shouldn't be about the debt now. Because for the COVID, we wouldn't have come up with this discussion about debt and so on and so forth. I'm looking at a situation where we are going to borrow money to create the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. And that is key, because cost of doing business in this country is also part of the reason why we are failing to attract the necessary FDI. So if you are going to invest in soft and hard infrastructure to make the cost of doing business low, given that we are having this free exchange system that is supposed to churn out middle-skill labor force, then our economy becomes very attractive for these global giants to come in here, set up and produce for the Saharan African sub-region. Don't forget that with this after, it is the necessary environment that we need to create to attract the FDI so that they won't go to other countries in Africa. And so our focus shouldn't be on the debt. Our focus should be on how we are going to put in place policies to expand the economy, rake in more revenue, and service the debt later on. Because if the economy doesn't
be able
expand,
to survive to even service later on is a concern.
Sure. So the issue should be the survival now, and the survival has to do with expansion, recovery of the economy, than thinking about the future we are going to service the debt. So it's important that we focus our attention on being very efficient with the loans that we go in for to ensure that whatever we borrow is going to expand the productive capacity of this economy.
I think that is the key thing.
Precisely.
Being efficient with the loan that we're borrowing. The concern is that the loans that we are borrowing are being used for consumables and not necessarily things that would expand the economy.
So our focus should be on going to borrow to expand our productive capacity and not to say that we should stop borrowing, because the alternative is to tax. This is not a time. In fact, this is not a time, and in the whole world, no country is taxing its citizens, because this is not a time in the environment of COVID, where jobs in the private sector have not fully recovered, to begin to tax households who are even suffering getting jobs.
But we are being taxed in the
precisely. So we don't have an alternative now. The only way is to go and borrow, expand our productive capacity, and hope that. And I'm excited that the IMF clearly indicated that per the policies that we are putting in place now, if we continue, by 2024, that ratio of the debt to GDP should begin to decline, and our tax revenues will increase, and we'll have the fiscal space to go on to develop our economy. So let us, as a country, put aside this debate about debt, because every country in this world is building on this debt. Because what can you do? The structure of our economy itself, most African countries, is because of the large informal sector. We are not able to raise enough tax revenue. And that is the structure. If you compare ourselves to the highly developed economies, they raise all their developed finance from taxes because everybody is paying tax. So we need to build a capacity of our revenue agencies to be able to pursue and enforce that taxes are paid.
I always ask this question when it comes to revenue and expenditure and the fact that we are not able to generate as much revenue as we need. Then I ask, so what happened to cutting down on expenditure?
You see, in a developing country like ours, cutting down expenditure is something that will be difficult because of the many problems that we have. And so health, we need to expand health facilities. We need to ensure that every kid is going to school, so education, health, and also to ensure that we create an enabling environment for the private sector. These things have to come with government spending. Apart from the fact that we are running a democracy, that is also very expensive. Monies that we are having to take out of our revenue as what we call the statutory payments and all of that, are things that we have had to contend with as one of the huge costs of democracy. But we think that is good for us because the alternative to democracy is not what we want because of the past history that we had with that. And so this is the time that we need to also make sure that we are very efficient with our expenditure. If expenditures are increasing and we are very efficient, it's fine, because what happens is that at times your recovery has to come with more spending than to reduce spending. And in this time that we want the economy to recover out of the pandemic, this is not a time to cut down on spending, but to be more efficient with spending.
Exactly, efficient.
And also to be able to raise enough revenue. So the choices that are available, I don't envy the managers of the economy within this time, because the choices that are available are very limited, and they are also mindful of the political economy issues at stake.
Exactly.
And so in balancing all of these things, the alternative normally is to go and borrow, and then see how best you can get around some of these political economy issues. So we need, as a country, to focus on expanding our economy and stop this short-term cycle of winning elections and promising a lot that will not be sustainable.
Right. Now let's look at the women-focused intervention, the 20% of procurement to be awarded to women. What do you make of that, and how do you think it can be implemented in a way that ensures that real people, or the really needy, let me say, people would benefit from this, and not? I put a question to Dr. John Kumar about the fact that perhaps not being skewed to party people.
I think that the Ghana Enterprises Agency has a role to play in this. I'm aware that they are involved in a lot of initiatives that are trying to equip women, SMEs that are owned by women. And I think that if they are able to do that very well, it will put the women in a position to be very competitive in trying to procure some of these. It's good if we have affirmative action in that direction to ensure that we also, don't forget that women are better managers of resources than men. And so one way in which you can reduce poverty is to attract women and use policies that target women. So it's good the government has come with a policy to at least ensure that 20% of procurement will go to women. But it should come with party colors.
Exactly.
And you see, the part of our democracy that is worrying is the political capture of almost everything. And so you tend to get a sense that even if you have a government that wants to go beyond and make it nationalistic, its own party members are saying, look, when you're in opposition, you're not getting anything. Now you've come to power. I remember at a time when President Mills took over, he got to a point that he asked the ministers to open up the ministries for their party members because they were complaining. And we need to change our national psyche. And this is where at times I fault the national civic education for not providing enough education to our electorate to know that Ghana is for all of us. We only have different parties coming in with their manifestos and their ideologies to come and get our development process forward. And it's not it's not a zero-sum game. So when it's MPP in power, it has to be MPP people who should be, and it gets to NDC. We need to stop that. Every female entrepreneur that has the capacity to procure for government services should be allowed to do that, irrespective of the party colors. I know it's easier said than done, but I think at the highest level, we need to get rid of this political capture and ensure that we can see people who are delivering for Ghana, not because of their party colors, because they have the ability to do so. And I think most women, if they are supported and their enterprises are doing well, should be in a position to procure for government. Yes.
Very well. Honorable, let me come to you with that same issue. I mean, obviously this wouldn't be the first time, a government is trying to do something in the interest of women. We've seen that in the past. I mean, some have, run into challenges and all of that. So this, again, your thoughts on it? How do we avoid, situations of the past?
Well, we are always going to sort of encounter challenges, when we are trying to address such issues, especially with women. And I agree with basically what Doc has said. We've been making the effort, for some time now, and we need those efforts should continue and probably do more. It's important that we have some kind of an affirmative action to obviously help our women to be able to do well in businesses, because, I mean, to be honest, we all know women are basically the ones who are holding, most homes.
True.
So we should empower them to be able to look after us. So I, think that that's a good thing that the government, is doing. Doc says something quite interesting, and that is to do with this partisan, approach in doing things. The winner takes all mentality in government, that when you are in power, you should be able to, you should look after your people alone, and then they get all the school feeding, get this, get that, and then the other, so when it's time for the other party to come to power, then, so we need to, stop with that. But it's a good initiative. If I can, Abena, quickly bring you to a couple of issues, but certain things that Dr. Kuma said that I need to bring to your attention that I think was a bit, misleading. You asked him a question about this planting for food, about crops that he avoided and basically consumed himself with cocoa. Now, if you look at, again, this is the point I was trying to make earlier, that they have implemented policies that we have not seen the required result. We've not got a kind of returns, because they say, to whom much is given, much is expected. If you look at all the borrowing, and I will address Doc's issue with the borrowing, I agree with him to an extent, but I think there's also another area about the debt that we should pay attention. That is why the debt becomes quite important. Now, if you look at, and this is the mid-year review, you look at crops, again, we have invested so much money. Part of the borrowing we are talking about is as a result of all these things we've done. Now, in 2020, the contribution of crops to our GDP is expected to be around 8.7. In 2021, with all that we have done, you would expect that contribution to GDP will go up further. It has declined, or it will decline. We are going to move from 8.7 to 5.7. So the question I ask is, what has happened to that planting for food? Why is the planting for food not making impact in basically helping our GDP, to grow? Now, you come to the cocoa issue, which he was trying to use to obviously praise the government. Again, you look at it, and 2020 is 1.9. 2021, 15.2. Great. Okay? But the question you ask yourself is that how much cocoa is going to give us this 15%, 15.2% of contribution, jumping from 1.9. They will say pandemic, affected prices and everything. Now, we, at the time when we were making 960 metric tons of cocoa, we were getting a certain amount, which is obviously nowhere near what they are getting now, because now they are saying that we have 1 million, I believe. Yeah, 1,030,000. But when you do the math, the 1,030,000 against the world cocoa price is not going to give you a percentage like 15.2 if you use cocoa as a percentage of your total GDP. So basically, in 2021, what the driver for GDP growth is actually crops. Cocoa, sure. Because crops is actually dipping.
Dipping, right.
So these numbers, we need to look at it. I mean, on fishing, they close the sea, you know that. As if the sea is a lake. I mean, I've never been able to...
For a particular cause?
Well, at the cause, I've spoken to people who deal with oceans and all that. And then my understanding is that fish, they move. So it's not a pond. You are not doing a fish farming where you can actually keep them at one place, feed them, and say that now we open the sea.
So give it time. Let it let the what's it called, marine ecology or whatever it is hibernate, and then you will get more out of it.
Well,
so that's the argument. Unless you're saying that is not.
No, that is not a science, because fish are actually supposed to be moving. Okay, that is why I come from a fishing community. Community. That's why I'm an MP there. I was born there. I know the place. Now, you get herrings. There's a certain time of the year that you get herrings, and then they get them somewhere else because they're actually passing. So if I feed the herrings here now, when I'm supposed to be catching them, when they are fat and ready for eating, they will be in Ivory Coast.
So you're saying there's an issue with that?
There's an issue that with that is eating.
The timing.
Now, it's the timing.
The timing, not the whole concept.
Yeah.
Because the concept of living in the ocean to rest.
It's a great idea.
Sure. But the timing is the problem.
The timing is the problem. Okay. We don't want them to grow and end up somewhere else. Now, quickly on this one, then I will address with this jobs that will be created, this 1 million jobs that wasn't mentioned in 2021 budget, but they came up with 420. He was talking about 3 years. It's the same 3 years they have here. 420 productive and decent jobs, 2021 to 2023. Now that has become 1 million. I hope we're able to do it. Now, quickly back on the debt issue, and I do agree with Doc to an extent that basically in the pandemic, debt shouldn't have been an issue, because you need to be able to borrow and spend that money in a way that will stimulate your economy, get your GDP, because basically debt to GDP we'll talk about. Your GDP is the denominator, your debt is the one up. So if the base gets bigger, you will sync up your.
But you have a minute to wrap up, because
the problem we have, and I want to draw this analogy very quickly. The problem we have is that, you was talking about some countries that are also borrowing and all that. First of all, we don't borrow to do the right things. We borrow to consume. Therefore, the economy is never going to expand if we are not building infrastructure and all that. Now, when you compare yourself with America, what we fail to talk, and this is something academics and all that need to look at, what we fail to recognize, that America economy in terms of its debt structure is completely different. America could be over 100%, but 70% of America's debt is owned by local participants. In Ghana,
so the dynamics are totally different.
In Ghana, our debt, even though we look at our foreign debt and we say it's about 49%, but that is not exactly true, because even the local debt, which is about 50%, has foreign investors in it.
Right.
So those foreign investors, when those bonds they buy, whether they are treasuries or whatever matures, and they liquidate them, they mop the dollars we have in the system. And that has a dual impact in a sense that it affects our exchange rate. Okay, that's why our dollar is going up, and also affect our foreign debt, because we are paying the foreign debt in dollars. You know, where we are mopping cities to do that.
Very well.
And these are the things that we need to look at critically.
Thank you for that, Doc.
Yeah,
a minute.
I agree perfectly with Honorable. I mean, we need to have a national debate on the dynamics. Look at the content of the debt, and I actually agree with him that the component of our domestic debt has some
foreign element.
In terms of those who own it, and in terms of it being in foreign currency. And so, whilst it might look to be more domestic, the interest rates and the foreign exchange dynamics also add up to our debt. So we need to take a second look at it. I mean, so the debate has to go into the dynamics and not just the debt to GDP ratio. I mean, and when we are able to do this very well without partisan politics, I think that Ghana will make a headway in going to borrow rightly to expand our economy, because the structure of our economy doesn't allow us to raise enough revenues because of the informalization. So it is quite critical, and formalizing the informal sector is going to take a long time. It's not something that can be done in 2-3 years. In the interim, what do we do to expand our economy? And that is why I say that I don't care too much about it precisely.
Smart borrowing is what it is.
Precisely,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Yabo Texan, an economist, and Honorable Kweku Rickett-Hagan, former Deputy Minister for Finance. We have been looking at the mid-year review of the 2021 budget statement delivered by the Minister for Finance earlier on in the week. I'll take some messages to wrap up on this segment. AU Farouk in Tamale North says, good morning. Akufo-Addo Bawumia government has plunged Ghana into an unsustainable debt hole. Government must seek debt relief before it is too late. Hashtag fix the country. Good morning, Lawyer Abna. I am very optimistic that the critics of this government will be proven wrong by the end of the tenure of His Excellency Nana Addo, because of the massive socio-economic transformation that Ghana will go through. And this is Suleiman Adamba. He says he's the Big Six Secretary in Tamale. Prince Henry Koforidua says, good morning, Abna. So when will the Finance Minister and the NPP stop blaming the NDC and John Mahama for their mismanagement and failures? If the economy is good, why ask Ghanaians to contribute 100 Ghana cedis monthly towards building of the cathedral? I feel very sad. Hashtag the key point. Regards to, says Elikem Kotoko and Honorable Fifi Kwete. I'll take one more. The current debt to GDP is very worrisome and unfortunate, the least to say. What is even more annoying and intriguing is the 100 Ghana cedis donation for the construction of the controversial cathedral edifice. In fact, after giving us 4% salary increment, you want us to again give out the 64 Ghana cedis you gave us. Indecisive, intrusive, incompetent, and dishonest government indeed. That's Aziz Donla in Wa. I'll take one last one and we go. Abena, good morning. Our Ghanaian intellectuals are hypocrites and Allah will surely deal with them. When JM was borrowing to build infrastructure, name them: airport expansions, port expansions, modern markets, roads, hospitals, schools, etc. What did they say? If we had allowed all those expansions up now, what would have been the state of Ghana today? You didn't add your name, but thanks for your message. Quite a lot coming through. We'll be reading them as we go along. But thank you so much, Dr. Yabo Texan, Honorable Kweku Rickett-Hagan, and also thank you to the Honorable Dr. John Kuma, Deputy Minister for Finance. We'll take a break. When we come back, we go into the Asin North Constituency Parliamentary Election Petition outcome. This is the key point. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you so much.
Ever thought of how persons with mental health conditions fare with sexual and reproductive health rights issues? Amidst all that we are going through, there is the ever-hovering matter of sexual and reproductive health concerns, especially of adolescent girls and women, to be mindful of. Persons affected by mental health conditions should have access to sexual and reproductive health information like the rest of us. Let us endeavor to support them access sexual and reproductive health information and services on family planning, antenatal services, skills delivery, and postnatal care for women. Let's support them access information about STDs prevention and treatment whenever the needs arises. We all have a role to play in addressing the sexual and reproductive health concerns of persons affected by mental health in Ghana.
This message is brought to you by Basic Needs Ghana and funded by amplify change.
Bonsoir, monsieur. Madame. Et voilà.
Ah, babe, what is this?
This is the escargot and the foie gras. Oui.
Where did she go?
You pa one kasa who say obasa your pay fiedian. Eh?
It's been long since you ever felt like this.
Welcome to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Aquaba Magic. Efie. Welcome home to Aquaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
Sale, you're gonna direct. Now, what's this saying? With Dewa NLA 539 Direct, you only have to select up to 5 numbers from 1 to 39. To play, dial *446# across all mobile networks and select option 1. With a minimum of 2 Ghana cedis, you can bet on Direct 1. Match the first number and win 20 times your stake. Direct 2. Match 2 numbers and win 45 times your stake. Direct 3. Match 3 numbers and win 400 times your stake. Direct 4. Match 4 and win 5,000 times your stake. Direct 5. Match all 5 numbers to win 50,000 times your stake. The more you play, the more you win. Look out for the draw results on TV3 News at 7 p.m. Win easy, win every day with Dewa NLA 539 Direct. Afa, winning no, it choke.
How safe is your environment from pathogens? How do we survive this new normal with bacteria and viruses everywhere? You can take charge of your environment by using Good Air Sans Humidifier with chlorine dioxide tablets to get rid of pathogens, including bacteria and viruses. You can use Good Air Sans Humidifiers in your homes and offices and be rest assured of protection against pathogens. Just set up the Good Air Sans Humidifier in your space to disinfect the place continuously for virus and bacteria-free environment. Our devices work in both public and private spaces like schools, hotels, hospitals, churches, mosques, restaurants, salons, and homes to enjoy a nice family time. Good Air. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
I feel at home whenever I'm in front of the camera. It reminds me of the time when I was a little boy. I used to entertain my family.
After all, it's our story. For the best of your original dramas, telenovelas, and sports, get your GoTV decoder, GoTenna, and a month of GoTV Plus for as little as 109 cedis. Download my GoTV app to easily manage your account on the go. GoTV. Love it.
Life after 60 can be a long, lonely road. But for persons who learned early in life the culture of savings, it should be a rewarding experience.
But I was able to manage because my work go face on now my share say a simi dying kakra. Before my pension, no me see me akasa fee.
But thousands of workers cannot boast of saying no savings, no pensions, and generally no consistent money stream.
Some of them too come here to report that even their children are not taking care of them.
How late is too late? Nanekia Mensah Brampa in Pensions explores the realities of Ghana's savings culture, the plight of current pensioners, and how to take advantage of your working life to secure a financially sound retirement. Pensions, life's realities after 60, the stories, the experiences, and the reality. Premieres on 3rd August 2021 at 9:30 p.m. on TV3, on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and all updates on 3news.com.
Across Africa, nations are beginning to trade among themselves like never before, creating the largest continental market the world has ever seen. On the Single African Market Program, we will show you how products, services, capital and people will be crossing barriers as the continent and its citizens embrace a single market in a sustainable manner for growth and development to meet targeted UN development goals.
Congratulations, Your Excellency.
Get the latest update on all opportunities from the continent's trade house. Know the success stories and how challenges are being addressed. Africa is ready to trade among itself and the world, so are the people. The single African market is the voice of businesses that trumpets the vision of Africa everywhere, in association with the Government of Ghana, CFTA Secretariat, International Chamber of Commerce, Business for Peace Foundation, GIZ, and UNDP.
Single African Market shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
22 years ago, she came to Ghana from the Caribbean. She started off her journey from Manchester in the UK.
I was born in the UK and I came to Ghana in '99. My heritage is Caribbean.
And she created an opportunity for children, disadvantaged children, to find a voice.
One of the things that we need to have is that confident children. And I know that sometimes parents in my school would say, oh yes, but if they talk too much, will they be bad-mannered? Will they be rude? And I don't think that's the case.
It's absolutely not the case. She also has become, presently, the member for British Empire.
I'm just absolutely delighted that I have been recognised for the work that I've been doing in the UK and in Ghana for 40 plus years.
You don't want to miss this episode right here on Today's Woman on TV3.
Today's Woman shows Sundays at 3 p.m. and repeats Wednesdays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to the Key Points live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So, excuse me. We're moving on next to look at the outcome of the Asin North parliamentary election petition, and we're asking the question, or we're exploring the legal and political ramifications of that. This week, the Cape Coast High Court delivered judgment in that parliamentary election petition and ultimately cancelled that elections held in on December 7, 2020, following the petition that was filed. And we're going to be looking at the ramifications of this judgment, politically and legally as well. In the studio with me, we have Mr. Abraham Amaliba. He's a lawyer and also the Director of Legal Affairs with the National Democratic Congress, NDC. And also we have Justice Abdullahi. He is a lawyer and a lecturer at the Law School of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to have you.
Good morning.
Good.
Good morning.
We're also expecting to be joined on Zoom by Mr. Evans Nemako. He's the Director of Elections with the New Patriotic Party, NPP. When he comes through, we'll do the needful and introduce him accordingly. But until then, it's Mr. Abraham Amaliba and Mr. Justice Abdullahi in the studio. Let me start with you, Mr. Amaliba, because you were with the team. I want to believe that. And judgment given. It appears this parliamentary election petition, compared with some, and of course here I would bring in the one about Isaac Hamu, Ayaso West Wogon constituency, that was for many years. This has been concluded in record time, and educate listeners and viewers why we've seen this, if you like, expeditious determination of this matter, at least at the High Court level.
Let me start by saying good morning to your viewers. Clearly, if you look at even the parliamentary petitions that are ongoing across the country, you will notice that this one concluded much earlier. And that is where we actually had our problems, because some procedural errors were committed by the judge. So, for instance, there were no application for directions. All he said was that file your
memorandum of issues.
Memorandum of issues. No application for directions. In this case, too, the judge declined to have viva voce evidence. In other words, he declined to allow the parties to take the witness box to, as it were, give their testimony. All he said was that, look, write your legal arguments and I'll give judgment. So these were some of the things that we complained about, and said that the CI 47, which regulates parliamentary petitions, clearly have been trampled upon. And so if you ask the question, how did we get to this so quickly, is because, in our view, some procedural errors were committed. Because when you look at the issues before the court, you have the issue of foreign law. And we all know that the Evidence Act, Section 112, says that foreign law is a matter of fact. And you will need an expert witness to provide evidence to support them. He did not do that.
So you're saying you disagree with him when he, in the judgment, indicates that basically from the pleadings or the documents that were filed by both sides, the undisputed facts were, they did it, because they were undisputed, there was no need to go into the box to lead evidence on to determine, I mean, whether or not.
What were the undisputed facts?
And that, because the undisputed facts were so clear on the face of the documents, he then moved on to look at what he said was outstanding, which is the legal issues, and for that matter, come by legal arguments. You're saying that is not
What were
correct.
the undisputed facts?
He states them in the judgment.
You have two contesting views. How could that be undisputed? You have one party saying that the time that is relevant for a person seeking to be a member of parliament to renounce his allegiance is at the time of elections. The another one says that it should be at the time of opening of the polls. That's at the time of nominations. How is that undisputed?
So let's go through per the judgment. He says, so the undisputed facts are: one, the respondent once held both Ghanaian and Canadian citizenship. That is not disputed. Two, that on 19 December 2019, the first respondent, who is Mr. James Quayson, through his lawyers, wrote to the Canadian authorities to renounce his citizenship, Canadian citizenship. That is not disputed. It is also not disputed that first respondent, that is James Quayson, has had his Canadian citizenship since 1983 and received permanent residence in 1979 and had since worked as an administrator in social studies. It is also not disputed that between the 5th and 9th of October 2020, when the Electoral Commission opened and closed nominations to contest the parliamentary elections for the Asin North constituency, Mr. James Quayson filed his nomination forms with the EC to contest as such. Then there's also the undisputed fact that before the 7th December 2020 general elections organized by the EC, a youth group known as Concerned Citizens of Asin North, alleging that Mr. James Quayson owed allegiance to another country other than Ghana, presented a petition to the EC on the grounds that he was not qualified to be a member of parliament. And then that the EC, in a letter dated 24th November 2020, requested Mr. Quayson to respond to the petition. Subsequently, it is also not a disputed fact that on 26 November 2020, the Canadian authorities wrote to approve of Mr. Quayson's renunciation of his Canadian citizenship. Then, Mr. Quayson honored EC's invitation regarding the petition written by the youth group of Asin North and presented the certificate of renunciation of his Canadian citizenship. And then, Mr. Quayson contested the 2020 December 7 parliamentary elections conducted in the constituency. That is not also in dispute. And then finally, another undisputed fact is that the EC declared him as the member of parliament elect following his success at the said elections and gazetted him accordingly. So based on these undisputed facts, he says there was no need to go and lead evidence in the box. Let's resolve the issues. When does renunciation of citizenship occur? Is it at the point a certificate is issued or not? So for him, he thought those were the legal arguments, and let's deal with that.
So let's go to the period when nominations were opened. Mention that period for me.
5th to 9th of October.
5th to 9th of October. Now, this is what the Supreme Court says about nomination period. In the case of Ndum, you know, Ndum was disqualified. This is what the Supreme Court said about nomination period. We do not set, we did not, we do not see any error of law in that finding, as it is reasonable to expect or contemplate that the nomination period would extend beyond the nomination days. Are you hearing what the Supreme Court is saying? Mm-hmm. That the nomination period would extend beyond the nomination days. And that's the day you gave 5th to 9th.
5th to 9th.
the nomination period will extend beyond 5th to 9th. Now, in order for the applicant, and the applicant here will be Kwesen, to assess the nomination form and to offer opportunity to the candidate to make any amendments or alteration necessary to his nomination forms within the nomination period as prescribed in Regulation 9.2 of CI 94. The judge erred by saying that nomination had closed on the 9th, because the definition of nomination period extends beyond nomination days, which is the 5th to 9th.
Very well.
Now, the Ascent North youth, when they petitioned the EC invited the candidate at that time. If nominations are actually closed on the 9th, 5th to 9th, what is the business of the EC inviting him after it has closed? It's because the EC knew that nomination period, per this ruling on IMDUM, goes beyond the dates.
Very well. Let's hold it there. Cross over to Zoom, where we have Mr. Evans Nemako, Director of Elections, NPP. Mr. Nemako, good morning. Mr. Nemako, can you...
Good morning.
Good. Thank you for joining us. I understand you're traveling, and so I will dedicate some few minutes, about 7 minutes to you, and then we can let you go, and then I will focus on my guests in studio. Right.
Well, thank you very much.
Good.
I'll make myself available. I'll stay through and have the discussion.
Oh, you stay through. Very well. That is good. So then let me have Mr. Justice Abdullah's initial statements. Then I come back to you shortly.
Okay, madam.
Yes. So, Mr. Abdullah, you've heard Mr. Abraham Amaliba on the position taken by the judge, the undisputed facts, which led him to then say, we don't have to, go for a trial. Let's not lead evidence, go into the box, lead evidence, but let's resolve this issue by way of legal arguments. And so there were issues for determination that he set down, 3 of them, that at the time, whether or not at the time of opening of nomination and the filing of the 2020 parliamentary nominations forms by candidates who intended to contest the elections organized by the EC, Mr. James Kwesen, who was at all material times the parliamentary candidate of NDC, owed allegiance to another country other than Ghana. That's the first issue. The second issue is whether at the time of filing of nominations forms by Mr. James Kwesen with the EC and at the close of nomination to contest the parliamentary elections in the Ascent North constituency on the ticket of NDC, Mr. Kwesen had renounced his Canadian citizenship. And lastly, whether the election of the first respondent as Member of Parliament for the Ascent North constituency is null and void and of no effect, of no legal effect, as same violates, Article 94(2)(a) of the Constitution and then the other statutes that were referred to. So again, let me hear you also on how the judge went about this whole adjudication process.
All right. Thank you. Indeed, I did hear my senior make a submission, but I know that my senior knows better that when it comes to trial, it is not mandatory that you necessarily file applications for directions. It's not mandatory. It can always be dispensed with, depending on the circumstances of the case. And so that, and in cases where, whether deliberate or otherwise, oversight, it does not happen. It does, where, application for directions are not taken. It does not affect the decision made by the court ultimately. So that ought to be pointed out.
So long as the right issues are...
So long as the issues are set down and then the matters are tried, unless there is anything else that are the basis for challenging the decision of the court, the fact of application for directions not having been filed is not a basis to question a decision that is made by the court ultimately. That must be pointed out clearly. And maybe if I have to address the second issue that he raised, which literally attacks the decision of the court, for not having led evidence in court. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but reading from the judgment, it is obviously clear that the parties themselves submitted that considering the uncontestable issues involved in the matter, indeed, as you rightly pointed out, of the facts were not contestable. The issue that my senior refers to as being the date of nominations and the date of the renunciation, those were legal matters. And indeed, legal matters are not matters that you lead evidence on. And so, I believe and I know that my senior knows that way better than I do.
Why is he? He's saying he doesn't think the judge did the right thing.
That's not what he's saying. He's attacking the decision, but he's not saying that he doesn't know that these things are normal and right. But and he's entitled to attack the decision because, I mean, it's natural. That's what lawyers do. Whatever you find wrong with the decision, naturally you have to point it out. But that is not to say that these are wrongful, because these are normal practices that when matters borders on legality, evidence are not led on legalities, because the parties cannot lead evidence on law. They can only lead evidence on facts and evidence, and that's all. And so where the parties themselves, and that's what the judgment says, that the parties themselves admitted and accepted that because the facts are not contestable, and because there's only a legal issue that ought to be determined, they rather file submissions, legal argument for the court to make a determination out of it. So clearly this is not wrongful.
So in terms of procedure,
so
you don't think
these two do not affect the outcome of the decision, because it is normal, it is acceptable, and it is indeed what we do on daily basis. And my senior has been doing that for a very long time, before I was born. So
he should know very well.
So he knows better. So really, I mean, having said that, what then is left? Perhaps, but let's point out that I was disappointed when I read in the judgment that the first respondent, as a member of parliament, did not file any
We'll be getting to that, because
I was
would need
really
to know,
disappointed, because really there's a matter that directly affects him as a person and also affects the constituency that he represents, and indeed affects all of us as a country, because and so whatever decision that comes out of this without his argument is very unfortunate for all of us, because I was hoping that he would file his argument, because his argument would have influenced or affected the ultimate decision that the court would make. Unfortunately, we are deprived of this. No, naturally it would affect it. The fact that it may go against him does not mean that it doesn't affect the decision. So at least we would have had the benefit of knowing the sort of argument that they would have made. Now it has become a political party matter, and my senior, for instance, is now making all these arguments that could have been made
in the submissions
at the time that it was required to be made. At this moment, it cannot affect the decision.
Very well.
It is too late to make some of these decisions at this point. The right time for these decisions and these arguments to have been made was when it was ordered for them to file. And indeed, they were in court when the order was made. So on what reasonable grounds did they deprive us of that solid argument that they had?
Very well. Ms. Amaliba, I'll be coming to you for a reaction to that, because obviously people want to know why that happened. But let me go to Mr. Evans Nimakon. Mr. Nimakon, your party has described this judgment as a victory for the rule of law. Obviously, you're happy about it, but you've also heard the reactions from the NDC. Let us understand. Let us have your initial, thoughts on this judgment.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning to your viewers, to Justice and Abraham. I hope we are all doing well.
God has been good.
What I know of is that when judgment is given or ruling is given by the court, I mean, it is normal that the litigant will either be happy or be sad. I've heard the NDC that this is travesty of justice. On our part, it says victory for democracy and rule of law. We will sit back and see the NDC, how they want to proceed with their either stay of execution or whatever arrangement they want to put in place. But I think that, as Justice said, it's lawyer Amaliba and co who have disappointed their client. He started as a first lawyer and then left. What they have at hand is a bad case, and so that is what they find themselves. What I would say is that the NDC had done everything in their power. we saw how they made sure that the MP voted in Parliament when they were electing the Speaker. On that said day, the minority leader said that they should allow him to vote and err on the side of the law. They knew exactly what they were doing, but here we are. They found themselves in this difficult situation. They cannot run away from their own actions. They started with their own selection of candidates, and they didn't help themselves. On our part, what we were able to do after our initial primaries, and a certain team put together to ensure that we verify documentations of candidates. This the NDC failed to do. And so they got themselves to blame, madam.
Very well. Are you done with your initial thoughts?
Yes.
Very well. So let me come back to you, Mr. Maliba here. First respondent failed to file his closing address, and that was commented on by the judge. Why did that happen? I think I heard also Mr. Alex Segbethia in an interview indicate that the registries had closed and so they couldn't do that, so alleging sabotage of the registry and all of that. Let us understand, why did the first respondent not file their closing address?
So let me then now talk about the conduct of the registry at the Cape Coast High Court. We had come to the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court, because in our defense, or if you want answer to the petition, we had raised the issue of the fact that the issue whether or not a person owes allegiance to another country is a matter for constitutional interpretation, and that must be referred to the Supreme Court. So we're in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that even though we have come with the court notes, which shows that we raised the issue and the court declined, we should go back and specifically make an application. And if he declines, we come back. So the next morning at 8 a.m., we're already in Cape Coast, and we had put together the written argument.
When were you in the Supreme Court, just so we can follow properly?
No, it's about this issue of...
I mean, when?
We were in the Supreme Court on the 27th.
Of this month?
And the next day, 28th, we were supposed to be in Cape Coast High Court.
Right.
So we then prepared the application to put before him, together with our legal arguments. When we got there, the court, the registry had closed, and they won't open up to 9. You are a practitioner. You know that the registry opens around 8:30. Now, this is not the first time I, talking to you now, faced a similar problem when the injunction application was granted. When we had also envisaged and we preempted the decision of the court and anticipated it, we had also armed ourselves with a stay of a notice of appeal and a stay of proceedings, so that if it doesn't go away, we'll go into the registry and file. That one too, we were shut out. The question to ask is, why is the registry? Because when I was...
Why didn't you file a formal application then, rather than go to court and make, that viva voce application, which ended you in this situation, really? Because you have raised an issue about the constitutional interpretation thing, and you thought that the proper forum should be the Supreme Court. And so perhaps going into that, you should have gone prepared with your formal application.
The Constitution places that responsibility on the judge, that any time an interpretation issue comes up, and it is clear on the pleadings,
whether formal or not,
you refer. That responsibility is on the judge. That responsibility is on the judge. When the judge then refused, that's how come we went to the Supreme Court.
Right.
So the judge, in this case, refused to do his duty of referring the matter to the Supreme Court. So that answers your question. Now, when I was in the case, there was a day that was the name of the Frank Davis filed a process in the morning, and when the court clerk said court rise, and whilst I was on my feet, I was served with his process. How come that any time the NDC is going to file a critical document, the place closes? So the conduct of the registry in subverting the first respondent's legal action must also be brought to fore, and that is how come we're not able to file the legal arguments.
So have you taken this up formally? I mean, because you're making serious, I should say, allegations against the registry, and these are quite, indeed, yes, serious. Have you filed anything? Have you brought it to the attention?
So there's a petition that is going to be sent to the Chief Justice on Monday in respect of the conduct of the registrar, because the registry is headed by a registrar. And in our interactions on that day, what he told the lawyer who took over from me was that, in the mornings like this, he asked them all to go and eat before they come. Can you imagine?
Well, since you're saying you're going to lodge a formal petition, we'll leave it at that, and not necessarily because, I mean, at this point, it's your word against them. We were not there. We don't know what happened necessarily.
On the issue of my learned friend's disagreement with my submissions.
It wasn't entirely a disagreement, though.
But let me go on.
There'll always be differing opinions.
Yes.
So
Let me address something.
Yeah.
When the issue of foreign law comes up, don't that require that the judge takes evidence?
Okay, so then let's
either support or maybe disagree with the foreign law.
Very well. Then I come in here with a question. Shouldn't you then have filed, maybe for stay of proceedings and then refer that matter so that it will be determined? But then you went through. You didn't necessarily protest with the ruling the judge had given in respect of proceeding with the determination of the matter in accordance with, legal arguments. You participated.
I'm happy you have me on this program today because I know all the facts.
Sure. Which is why you're here.
We filed a stay before him. He struck it out. He dismissed it. We filed on another one at the Court of Appeal. So this is how it happened. On the 26th, we were in the Court of Appeal. On the 27th, we were in the Supreme Court. On the 28th, we were...
So what happened at the Court of Appeal?
That one also struck out.
So then the judge...
No, so don't say that we didn't do it.
No, so you did. Very well.
Don't say that we didn't do it. We followed through the process. And we cited all these things. And even said that, look, this law, the PNDC law 284, section 21D, puts the time or the period within which a person who wants to contest as an MP at the time of his elections, not at the time of his nomination. But I know what happened. Right. The judge was fixated with Zenator, the case in Zenator. And Zenator, we said that, was different from this one. In Zenator, it was about a person who was a non-registered person who wants to contest as an MP.
Very well. Mr. Maniba, let's just
this one is about allegiance.
Of clarity for people listening. So you exhausted all the avenues that you had to exhaust in terms of the stay after the judge had ordered that proceed on the basis of legal arguments. So let us also get that on record, that the judge had nothing before him to prevent him from moving on as he had ordered, because your application for stay at both, before him and indeed at the Court of Appeal were both refused. And so he had
we lay the blame for our inability to file the legal arguments at the doorstep of the registry.
Which is up for determination, because you said you
are
going to petition. That's
what is up for determination? That it wasn't locked, that the place was not locked, that the place was not locked. You are doubting us that we went to the register and it was there.
It is public knowledge. I'm just saying you have cause to lodge a complaint.
And I think it is the second time.
Yes.
It has happened to us in this matter.
Very well.
But you see, my issue with that would only be that filing of addresses usually have a week or two within which to do that. The court would normally give you time. And so my difficulty will be, why the member of parliament wait until the last day, just the last day, knowing that that was the decision day. But really, even if they had succeeded in filing it, it is possible that the trial judge would have refused to take that into consideration because his decision was already prepared. He had already set that day for the delivery of his decision. And so clearly it wouldn't have mattered even if they had succeeded in filing it on that day, because practically that's impossible. You are given a deadline within which to file. If you fail to file, in fact, in law, that in itself is a nullity, even if you file, because you file out of time. And so you probably would have to go for leave within which to file. And so really, it's quite difficult as to why things had to happen this way. But see, there are times when, naturally, when you're going through, and in the life of a matter, you have a lot of things going against you, which probably may not be able to do anything about. But I think for me, as I indicated earlier, my disappointment, I would wish that the Member of Parliament had filed his submissions way before, so that we would have had a better discourse today. Because really, at this moment, it is just the judge against the petitioner. And in such circumstances, any decision could be delivered which may not be in favor of anyone. And ultimately, we, the citizens of this country, are the losers, and not necessarily the NDC as a political party.
I mean, I want us to finish with the procedural matters and then go into the substance of it, looking at the decision as given by the judge, and then look at the ramifications there too. So, Mr. Evans Nimako, I'll come back to you just briefly. Hold on for me while I find out from Mr. Maliba whether or not you have filed an appeal as of now, and what is the way forward for Mr. James Quayson. Is he considering appealing this decision? And if so, what has been done? What does he intend? What has been done?
You cannot worry your worries away. So what you need to do is to act. And so clearly, on Monday, we are filing an appeal, and that will soon be followed with a stay of execution. The details, I'm not in a position to provide.
Very well.
But I can tell you that on Monday, we are filing an appeal.
Very well. We'll be looking at the stay of execution bit, and, because I find that very, very interesting, how that would play out. But let me come to you, Mr. Nimako. So, obviously, well, the court has ordered, fresh elections to be carried out. How is the NPP gearing itself up for this? And in terms of parliamentary business, during this time, up until whether, the stay of execution that Mr. Maliba is talking about, that it will be filed at some point, whether it will be upheld or not, we'll be looking at that. But between now and whenever they decide to do that, what is parliamentary business looking like for the NPP?
Oh, thank you. I can bear with Mr. Maliba to some extent. The difficulty he has in explaining himself on why they disobeyed the court when the court had asked for the NDC to do the needful. They disobeyed the court. Judgment was going to be read on the 14th, and NDC came to court.
The petitioner, you mean?
Yes.
The petitioner, not the NDC.
The petitioner, but
sorry, the applicant, first respondent, yes.
Okay, for the benefit of it, yes.
Mr. Quayson, yeah.
Through his counsel, they came to court, and the process was stopped because they went to court. They went to appeals court. On the 26th, the petitioner was at the appeals court, Cape Coast. They didn't file their closing submissions. On 27th, they went to Supreme Court, and I wish you were there to see the difficulties the counsel for the respondent found himself. So he was advised as to why the registry was closed as of 8:30 or not. Madam, I was at court on the Wednesday. And so Mr. Maliba wasn't at court. He was told that the registry was closed. It's up to them. They challenged the sitting judge. They are doing same to the registry, and the next moment they will come attacking you. Because when you ask them why they didn't file, it's having difficulties. When you ask, interrogating about the closure of the registry, he's asking you whether you think he's lying. And so that is the nature of the people we are dealing with. No. They won't admit their fault. They should admit this is a bad case.
They said they have a petition that they will be, lodging with the appropriate authorities in respect of what they allege to be a sabotage by the registry. So, that is something that they are considering, and so perhaps we'll need to wait to see how that is dealt with.
They had every time in their disposal to file and obey the directions of the courts. They disobey. Do they have to wait till they've come to Supreme Court to be advised on what they must do? It's strange. The issue is that Mr. Kwesi, looking at the papers, whether you are a lawyer or not, as of the time he filed his documentation with the Electoral Commission, had not received his certificate of renunciation. And these are hard facts. They can't run away from it. Their argument at the appeals court was that when you sign the statutory declaration, it's enough justification. And they've been running around with this argument. And it's unfortunate. And I remember very well at the Supreme Court, even at the appeals court, they were told that they shouldn't lead Ghana on that path because it is too slippery. It's a bad case for them. The behavior of Mr. Maliba is not different from what Dr. Bessa White and Mr. Rojo Nunu did to Mahama at the Coalition Center. For us as New Patriotic Party, we are waiting. I expect that the Parliament has been served and they will communicate to the EC of the vacancy so that the normal course will follow. It's clear that when the EC is notified, in 30 days, the elections must be held. We are putting ourselves in readiness, and I can assure you, the people of Asin North will do the needful, will support the cause of the New Patriotic Party, and we will win back the seats.
Very well. We will need to take a break at this point. When we come back, we'll delve into the specific pronouncements made by the judge in this judgment, and we will be narrowing down as well into the issues about allegiance and nationality and what they all mean in this regard and the way forward, whether or not Article 94(2)(a) perhaps should be taken a second look at or taken out entirely from the Constitution. The concerns that have been raised by Ghanaians in the diaspora will be in focus as well when we come back. Stick with us. We'll be right back. This is The Key Points. See you shortly.
The Saturday mornings will never be the same again.
We will bring you the best mix of sports and lifestyle content on Warm Up Plus.
We will interview exciting professionals from different fields of endeavor, including sports and fitness. Give fans an opportunity to show their passion and preview upcoming games.
Discuss what's trending in the world of sports and entertainment, give you lifestyle tips, serve you music, exercise, dance, laugh, and have an absolute ball on TV each Saturday.
So whether you're a fan or you just like fun,
you will absolutely love Warm Up Plus.
Warm Up Plus shows live Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on TV3. Celebration remains a powerful force in our cultural and daily lives. Whatever victory, we celebrate large or small. We cherish the beauty of togetherness. Come celebrate with us on GMB this week as the ladies make good memories of cultural events. The night will be special and enjoyable. To keep your favorite contestant in the competition, dial *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and follow the prompt. Join us in Studio B at 8 p.m. Audiences are strictly by invitation and all COVID protocols are strictly observed. GMB 2021, rediscovering true beauty.
GMB 2021 shows Sundays at
8 p.m.
and repeats Fridays at 3 p.m. and is sponsored by Lavon's Tomato Mix, Camel now from Kerex, Freedom from Casaprecon, GTP, Darling Lemon Drink, Airtel Tigo's Big Time Bundles, Lufat, Deluxy Super Fix Tile Cement, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, and Napa Mackerel,
Geisha, Close Up,
Ayo Insurance, and supported by
Welcome back. This is still the Key Points, and we're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So we're in the studio with Mr. Abraham Amaliba, Mr. Justice Abdullahi, and on Zoom we have Mr. Evans Nomakon. We are looking at the aftermath of the Asin North parliamentary election petition. The judgment was delivered on the 28th of July this week, and that judgment essentially is ordering or has declared the parliamentary election that was held, which elected Mr. James Kwei Singh as cancelled, and ordered a fresh election to be done for that particular constituency, Asin North constituency, and we're having a discussion about that. So
I want to react to what Nimako said by saying that we didn't do due diligence and that we let the people Asin North down. The authority that is responsible for ensuring that a candidate is qualified to contest is the EC. I have just told you here, maybe he wasn't listening, that when the petition was sent to the EC by the youth of Asin, the EC conducted due diligence and okayed him. Between the EC and he who is in his car talking now, whom should we believe? Whose authority should we accept so as to go on with the process? So you don't just sit in your car and just wax lyrically and say that we didn't do due diligence. We,
as a party,
right, and that we fail the people of us. We have always maintained that the time to qualify was at the time of elections and not at the time of opening of nominations.
But Mr. Maliba, this judgment would perhaps make the political parties, or should get political parties to perhaps be more attentive to certain processes, correct?
No, because if this matter had been transmitted or referred to the Supreme Court, then we have a definitive
But as it stands, is what I'm saying.
Because we, in our view, think and believe that that ruling judgment was an error.
But it hasn't been overturned yet, so it is the
yes,
judgment.
for now.
Based on this.
For now. And that's why we are escalating the matter.
Fine.
And to ensure that we have a definitive
definitive
decision on this matter.
Fine.
Because the PNDC law has been breached by this ruling, and we need the Supreme Court to make a pronouncement on it so that we can have a finality on it.
Very well. Justice.
Yes.
Now let's look at the pronouncements made by the judge, the reasoning that went into this judgment. Are you in agreement? Do you have a different opinion? Do you agree with the conclusion but disagree with the reasoning? Or you disagree with the reasoning and disagree with the judgment as well? I mean, the final orders that were made.
Right. So, Anna, this is it. I would attempt to state my own reasons without, but of course, sometimes make reference to the judgment. But not to, as to whether I agree or disagree really wouldn't matter to anyone, because at the end of the day, it's a court of competent jurisdiction. It has made its pronouncement. Luckily, my senior intimates that they are appealing the decision. And so we may have yet a better interpretations of the issues because an appeal is by way of rehearing completely. So we have a better decision from, well, not a better, yet a further decision that would ultimately put these matters to a rest if you are luckier. Otherwise, I'm sure probably you may end up at the Supreme Court if need be. So to that extent, this is what I say. The question before us really is simple. Whether or not at the time the Member of Parliament was declared victor in the elections, he was a Ghanaian, first of all.
Is it at the time he was declared or at the time he was fighting?
Well, they are all in contention. I'm just taking one after the other. So, was he a Ghanaian? That's the first question. The second, as the court put it, did he owe allegiance to another country? Maybe these two. I see the court trying to merge these two, but these two are not. They are not
distinct.
The same as the court is trying to make us believe. Owing allegiance and having a nationality of a different of a country are completely two different concepts. And indeed, that is why the Constitution and indeed the Representation of People's Amendments Act also People's Act also distinguish the two. You can be a Ghanaian. What it means is that you can be a Ghanaian, but still owe allegiance to another country. So could you be a foreigner and owe allegiance to Ghana? However, what the law looks at is for the two to coincide. Now, usually, there is a presumption that you are a Ghanaian and you owe allegiance to Ghana if you are a Ghanaian fully so-called, until someone is able to prove otherwise. And so we need to understand from that angle that if on the face of it, you are a fully fledged Ghanaian like the three of us sitting here, and including indeed Evans, you are likely to have the second leg added onto you without any question because it comes as a matter of course. Unless we're able to establish that even though you are a Ghanaian, we know that you are probably a spy for another country, and so you owe allegiance to that country. Or you have, for
without
reason
necessarily
or
having
other,
the nationality
without
of that
having
country.
the nationality of that country, or for a reason or another, you indeed operate. You are a Ghanaian, but with your complete allegiance to another country because you probably work for the interest of that country.
Right.
You may not be a spy, but you are working for the interest of another country, and that needs to be pointed out. And so the fact of you being a Ghanaian would not be enough in such a circumstances to make you even qualify to stand for the position of the president or for a member of parliament. So we need to clarify this.
But our position has been that you don't need to renounce your allegiance so as to go and pick a nomination form.
You're saying that at the point of picking your nomination form, you can still have the dual citizenship. Is that what you're saying?
I thought you were following him.
Yes.
He tried to distinguish citizenship from allegiance.
Yes.
So let's go on that trajectory.
Yes, but you're talking about renunciation of citizenship.
No, I say allegiance.
Very well,
I'm saying that. So at the time he picked the form, was he a Ghanaian? Yes, because he was a dual citizen.
Yes.
Ghana, Canada. So he's qualified. But I'm saying that in picking the form, you don't need to renounce your allegiance before you pick the form.
Very well.
Now,
wait, let
me make the point.
Because he was making the submissions, that's why you cut in.
So you look at 94(2). It says that, let me paraphrase, that a person shall not owe allegiance to another country other than Ghana for that person to be a member of parliament. Now, the framers of that provision were of the view that they don't want somebody to be sitting in parliament and having allegiance to another country, so that he will have access to classified information and send it to the other country.
Very well.
Now, tell me, the two of you, including him, tell me, how does picking a form when you owe allegiance to another country give you access to classified information? So the people who wrote the Constitution were of the view that it is when you are sitting in parliament that you can be a danger to our country, not when you are just merely picking a form.
Very well. Your point is made.
Since he brings that in, then I would have to respond to that by referring to the necessary provision. I think I found that in the judgment, the court referred to this. And it says that, maybe let me just read it out. It says that This is the regulation, the Public Elections Regulations 2020. That's the CI 127. And this is in reference to when it states that a candidate for presidential and parliamentary election shall, at the time of the nomination of the candidate, deliver or cause to be delivered to the returning officer a statutory declaration stating that that candidate is qualified to be elected as a president or a member of parliament and is not disqualified from being elected as such. Now, let's put this in perspective. And this is, I think, Rule 8. What is it to say that a person is qualified at the time of nomination?
Right.
And that is what my senior referred to as picking
the forms.
Now, this is the time that we are referring to. Now, at that moment, you are supposed to deliver a sworn affidavit. Well, since the two of us are all lawyers, so statutory declaration. But for the uninitiated, that is simply an affidavit. Now, this is a sworn affidavit, committing yourself that indeed you qualify. And what is it said? How do you qualify? Well, your qualification is premised on Section 9, and indeed Article 94, which includes your nationality and your citizenship. Now, you have sworn an oath signed by you that you qualify to be a member of parliament or to be a president. When it turns out that indeed at the time that you did this, you were not qualified, that is a deceit. That is fraudulent. That is wrongful. That is a crime. And so you cannot by that say that simply because you picked a form, that alone is sufficient to say that you have not committed any crime and because you have not been elected. That is, I think, is a wrong analysis to make. Clearly from the provisions of the law. If you go by the letter of this one, we are not even going to the spirit. Just the letter itself. It's clear that you were the one who told us on oath, and an oath is is a point of emphasis. Right. Because you could even go to prison for perjury. Right. Because you are literally lying.
Yes.
You see, and this is, well, you refer to Abu Sakandi. And this is how Adamu Sakandi, these were some of the reasons why he had to end up in prison. So if you are skewing the argument to sound as though it's a mere taking of a document, clearly, I think
his argument then is, just a minute, Mr. Manba, his argument then is...
I was not even going there until my...
Exactly, but now that it's happened, we need to resolve that as well. See, Mr. Manba...
94-2. 94-2.
Can we refer to the arguments that were made, at least the pleadings? You made some arguments, and the judge referred to them. He actually incorporated all of that in his judgment. He said, the position of Mr. James Grayson was that he, as of that time, his intention to renounce had been made.
And that was the argument by the member of parliament. He was not even arguing on the basis of what Messiah is saying. His argument was that once he had filed, he no longer had control over the proceedings.
Exactly. All he was waiting for was a certificate.
And the reason why Messiah is not going there, let me just say that. The reason why he's not going there, because these matters were, in fact, in 2017, 2008, there were so many of them at the Supreme Court and indeed the Court of the High Court, when lawyers were issuing writs without having their licenses. And all the arguments before the Supreme Court and indeed at the High Court were that once they had paid the necessary fees and had discharged their obligation to obtain their licenses, they no longer had control over how the General Legal Council conducted itself and how it issues the certificate. So on the basis of those,
they shouldn't be held.
They could not be held liable for issuing writs and other processes without having their licenses at the time. But the argument by the Supreme Court was flat and simple, that this one is being looked at purely on the basis of the law. Did you have it at the time? If you did not, it fell flat on its own.
Let's go to 94-2. A person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament if it didn't say that a person shall not be qualified to be nominated. Shall not, it didn't say nominated.
That's what the interpretation is, that the whole process starts from the point of filing nomination.
So why don't you, if the process starts from nomination, wait. If the process, who says that it starts from nomination, why don't you go to the time of registration? Why don't you backdate it? Because if you are not a registered voter, you can't even be a member of parliament.
No.
So why don't you go back to the registration?
All these strong arguments should have been the ones who have been made.
Why don't you go back to the registration? Now, on his point, no, you are finished. On his point, you are finished. You are finished. No, I don't interject. I don't interject. Now, he's talking about CI. Let me finish. He's talking about CI 127.
Mr. Ibasimako, I'm coming to you. We haven't forgotten about you.
CI 127 takes its root from the Parent Act, which is the People Representation Act.
284.
The People Representation Act talks about at the time of elections, to the extent that CI 127 is talking about at the time of nominations, as he rightly indicated, is null and void. That part.
It's unconstitutional.
It's unconstitutional.
But Sina, why are you waiting up to this time?
To that extent.
Why are you waiting up to this point? If you knew at all material time that it was unconstitutional, this law was the law that organized the entire elections.
The Parent Act.
The present president in office.
The Parent Act
challenge this.
The Parent. Let me put you are finished.
That's fine.
Now that I've made
I have to help.
Now that I've made the point, you are animated.
No.
Wait, let me finish.
Nobody can hear you when you talk.
Let me finish. Oh,
you've waited up to this point.
Let me finish. So the Parent Act,
which is just a minute,
yes,
please.
the Parent Act, which is PNDC Law 284, Section 21, makes the time of qualification at the time of elections. Now, if you have CI, which is lesser than the Act, talking about nomination, clearly it's wrong.
Okay.
But the High Court,
but whether or not this is the forum for that.
The High Court is not the place for that kind of thing. This is why.
Haven't you said that you refer the matter to the Supreme Court and they refuse?
Relax.
Didn't you say they should send it to the Supreme Court and they refuse?
Relax. Then, Mr. Nimako, can you hear me?
I think he's driving. Oh.
Hello? Hello, Mr. Nimako? Okay.
We said they should refer the matter to the Supreme Court.
So now, that's fine. All those issues would have to be dealt with. Hopefully, your appeal will come in the states and all of those will be dealt with. Not just
constitutional interpretation.
We need to take a break.
We
need to take a break. When we come back, we will be looking at the order by the court for the conduct of fresh elections, what it means for the two parties, what are their chances, then the political ramifications of this judgment, particularly as it relates to the business of Parliament and whether or not Article 94(2)A should be taking a second look at, particularly looking at the concerns raised by Ghanaians in the diaspora and many other issues. This is a key point. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In partnership with the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana brings to you yet another exciting season, the Tertiary Business Sense Challenge version 3.0. It's time to get down to business. 18 business schools, but there can only be one ultimate winner. Which school will emerge victorious? Cheer on your school every Tuesday at 5 p.m. and every Saturday at 1 p.m. only on TV3. Tertiary Business Sense Challenge version 3.0. Sponsored by MTN Ghana, PwC Ghana, Compu Ghana, Glyco, Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, with technical support from ICAG, CIMA, and CIMG.
Ready, camera? Merla Mundi is a renowned Ghanaian media personality and women's advocate. She is passionate about social issues and takes exceptional interest in telling life-changing stories.
Can you believe through this Ababoya, I've been able to complete University of Cape Coast.
Welcome to Asin Kushia. This is actually the cleanest city in Ghana.
Life is not a competition. Keep to the pace. Action!
Welcome to the Day Show, guys!
The Day Show unravels life-threatening stories.
Before they can steal more babies, they need dead bodies to be showing parents that your baby is dead.
The passion, the fun, and sometimes not so very pleasant moments.
Yes, I have suicidal thoughts and homicidal thoughts.
Tell your story to inspire. After all, everyone has got one.
The Day Show with Brella Mundi now shows on Thursdays at 9 p.m. and repeats on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
Welcome back. This is still the key point, and we're looking at the judgment rendered by High Court in Cape Coast in respect of the Asin North constituency parliamentary election petition. Let me quickly go to Zoom where we have Mr. Evans Nimakun waiting. Mr. Nimakun, can you hear me? Kindly unmute your mic.
Yes, that has been done.
Right, good. So we're looking at, way forward and next steps and all of that, even as we wait for the final, for this issue to be brought to finality. Obviously, I'm sure the party is, you indicated earlier that you're gearing up for the elections that have been called for. But tell us the political ramifications of this judgment as you see it from the point of view of the NPP.
Well, thank you. But as I said earlier, you can see the difficulty of Mr. Maliba, who was once the counsel to the respondent, Mr. Kwesi. The point is clear that the NDC, in this instance, have a bad case. The gentleman, as of the time he filed his documentations with the EC, owed allegiance to another country. And if you look at the Article 94 of the 1992 Constitution, it's clear. It talks about eligibility and qualifications and eligibility. So he wasn't qualified. The NDC themselves have started preparing candidates for possible by-election. And so for us, we are ready. We know that once the judgment has come, the EC is mandated, because the ruling is that the elections is null and void. And the gentleman there are even other issues. And so if NDC want to appeal, they should go ahead. The New Patriotic Party is also doing its homework, and at the right time, things will unfold. But I can assure you, this must be a lesson to all of us. Mr. Kwesi had lived in Canada as a Ghanaian, and he took up another citizenship. And you must not be stateless. He is aware of the processes that has to be undertaken for one to give out such citizenship. He knew. One of his reasons was that when he filed and had no control, the Home Office in Canada had a challenge because of COVID. And that is his argument. And which for me is preposterous. You come to us and that's what you want us to believe. As a way of information, NDC is not only in court for Asin North. They're in court for Jomoro. They're in court for Techima and South. They're in court for Takwa, in Shaim, Sebioso, and other few places. They are challenging election results. And today, because ruling has come and it is not in their favor, everybody is their enemy. Even at the studio, you've seen how Mr. Maliba is struggling to defend the indefensible. When it is clear that this is the position, they still want to bring out their own interpretation. It will not wash.
Very well. Thank you for that. I'll be coming back to you. Justice, quick one. I want us to look at two things. The role of the EC moving forward in terms of such processes. Is the statutory declaration that will be, submitted to them just enough, or they should go beyond that to actually, on the basis of this judgment, that is if it remains standing, to do more? And then, again, let's look at the issue about Mr. Kwesi, whether or not he can even, participate in the fresh elections that will be, held.
I'm not relying on this judgment solely for my pronouncement. I think the EC has consistently failed us, and this time I refer to the EC, not the commissioner. They've consistently failed us.
But who is the head of the EC?
Oh, senior.
Okay, so the corporate entity electoral commission is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because really they have that mandate to ensure that whoever contests for an election, is qualified within our laws to contest for that election, they have the obligation to do the necessary due diligence to ensure that everybody claiming to be a contestant, I mean, to
qualified,
is indeed qualified for that purposes. And relying on just a statutory declaration will not be enough without doing any background check on the persons. This they ought to do. They have all the resources. They get over $1 million. I mean, $100 million.
The budget for elections are never the entire budget. They are always given less than that.
Regardless, you have an obligation to ensure that whoever claims to be qualified is indeed qualified. It saves all of us this trouble from having to have yet another election and also spending a lot of resources just to have another election, which is so needless. They could have saved us this trouble by simply asking the basic questions. There are naturally some people will read red flags. Those are people you can easily interrogate further and get the best out of them.
Very well.
There
Can
are those
Mr. Kwesen contest?
You see, my answer is quite not yes or no, but it's very difficult for him to be able to contest because really I foresee the state coming after him, similar to what happened to Adamu Sakande. And if the state is coming after him on the basis of all these, having committed electoral fraud, it will be impossible for him to be able to contest. But if the state does not, then he might be able, but I do not foresee that happening.
I think I heard it in the news that criminal proceedings had been.
I have no doubt that it would happen, and not because I have any special information, but it's because it's a pure criminality, and it has happened to Adamu Sakande, and I do not see any different treatment in this area as well. So really, if that is coming as it's being alleged, then automatically he will not be able to qualify. And even contest for the new elections.
Few minutes more to go, so let me split the time between Mr. Maliba and Evans.
No, whether he can contest.
You can speak to that, and then also the chances of the NDC winning the election, the seat.
Whether he can contest, yes, he can contest, because if the judgment of the court is what we are going by, there will be nominations open again, and he has his certificate. You know, people have always thought that he was even sitting there with a foreign nationality. So he's qualified. On the issue of his being prosecuted, on what basis? Deceit of public officer. How will he be a deceit of public officer if the EC itself, which is the public officer, called him, he gave his certificate, and then you okay him, then you say it's a deceit?
Well, that will,
where does that lie?
That will be
determined if proceedings are instituted. I give you my certificate, you were not sleeping, you looked at it, and you said it was okay, then you turn around and say, I have deceived you.
Very well. Your chances, NDC chances of winning
so,
the election.
In fact, even if he's being prosecuted, he can still contest. Very well. It is a conviction that would bar him.
Very well.
But even if he's being, he can still contest.
Your party's chances at the...
I have told Nana Akufo-Addo not to send hoodlums and thieves and then blast-sacking people to the place, as they did at Ayawaso. If they stop that, if they don't do that, we'll win the seat. We won it by 3,000.
Very well.
And the good people of Asin North also know how difficult the country is. The good people of Asin North know that they are not running this country well. And that's why now they are not paying us well, but they say we should contribute 100 Ghana cedis to build a cathedral.
1 minute more.
The point is that if elections are going to be held free and fair, without hoodlums, blast-sacking soldiers who are in uniform, then we'll win the seat.
Mr. Nimako, you have the last word in a minute. Your chances of the NPP.
You didn't win the seat by 3,000 votes.
Almost 3,000. That's what I said.
The difference is 2,705.
That's almost 3,000.
So you see, you don't want to deal with facts. I mean, figures are figures. You can't turn them around like that. But it's unfortunate that you disappointed your client. You failed to represent him well. You didn't obey the court when you were asked to file your processes. You went to appeals courts. You were advised. The case was struck out. You went to Supreme Court.
You are merely repeating the things you have said.
At the next election.
Let him go.
When the time is given by the Electoral Commission, when stated time is given for the by-election, the new Patriotic Party will do the necessary things according to the law and will win back the seat.
Very well.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much.
Including sending
thank you so much.
Including sending vigilante
Mr.
boys.
Maliba, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Evans Nimako, Director of Elections with the NPP, Mr. Abraham Maliba, Director of Legal Affairs, NDC, and Justice Abdullahi, Lawyer and Lecturer at Law School, UPSA. And let me say a big thank you to you, our panelists here, and also to viewers and listeners. And as I indicated earlier, I bow out today after 5 years of doing this, and I'm saying a big thank you to you, our viewers and our listeners, for keeping with us. It's been an amazing time coming your way week in, week out with this show, and I know it is going to be an enjoyable stay as well. So we will, the show continues next week with Jifa Bampo, and have a good weekend and a productive week ahead of you. Thank you. One.